Chapter 1766. As the red printer was completely controlled by Han Dong and turned into a self-use prop, the crisis in the current area had been resolved. Out of curiosity, Han Dong continued to click on the details displayed on the bracelet to gain a deeper understanding of the printer. Containment measures. Original 1098 must be stored in an environment with a relative humidity of less than 15% and must avoid strong light exposure. At present, BBC has been able to effectively use the red printer and is temporarily used in the Deep Technology Department. Number 3. For rapid printing of various biological materials and modules. Description: the red printer came from the medium-sized World M. 1183. The world's chief scientist, Thomson Hart, suffered from an incurable disease. Considering the value of his brain, before his physical body died, his brain was stripped and stored in an ultra-low temperature chamber of -271 degrees Celsius. During the storage period, a rebellion by the espers affected the experimental area. A researcher was attacked by the espers when he escaped with Hart's brain, causing the storage container to be accidentally broken next to the printer. However, during the storage period at -271 degrees Celsius, the living brain had already undergone quantum changes. When the brain in a quantum condensate was released from the container, it immediately fused with the printer to form original 1098. Later, when the government army arrived, they found that the invading coalition forces were all dead, and there was a red socket on the surface of the corpses. At the same time, a large number of red ghosts, actually printed original 1098I, wandering around the research institute were also found at the scene of the invasion. No wonder you can smoothly perform deep control, Doctor. This thing is essentially a brain. Moreover, my guess is not wrong. Although the printer is labeled as out of control, it is relatively stable and safe. It is not restrained by management, but directly used in the technical department. With this thing, I should be able to directly print various keys and work cards to help me pass through the various areas in the deeper level, and even some unexpected uses. By the way, I have also been in contact with Deep House. The bracelet should be able to find the corresponding containment information, right? Han Dong clicked on the operation. The images of magnetic fluids were projected in the air, forming Deep House, his favorite pose. A human figure with a display structure on the head and a back full of cables. Before the information was displayed, there was a warning bar. Asterisk special warning. You are currently browsing a high-risk information document. Be aware of the danger of this out-of-control individual. Please do not contact it unless necessary. Containment name. Deep House serial number. Original 071, out-of-control type. Monstrous, out-of-control level. Queen, you are currently unable to view the detailed information. Please avoid direct or indirect contact with the uncontrollable entity. Based on the current detection of your body's information, if you come into conflict with the uncontrollable entity, you will undoubtedly die. Han Dong naturally knew how powerful Deep House was. He did not need the bracelet to remind him of that. However, he had some doubts about the information display given by the bracelet. What was the meaning of the out-of-control level? Why was the printer rated V, 5th class, but the deep room was described as a queen? Also, there seems to be a reason behind the categorization. B, C must have a set of systematic rules for the categorization of uncontrollable entities. Can you check it out? Han Dong tried to browse through the wristband's menu and finally found a classified document in the basic information bar. Basic definitions and classifications of types and levels of uncontrollable entities. The Black Tower HQ divided rampagers into 4 categories according to their safety. 1. Humans, relatively friendly. As long as they are managed under the conditions of containment measures, this type of uncontrollable entity usually does not cause negative effects to the environment or other individuals. After approval by the committee and the director, this type of uncontrollable entity could be appropriately used in BBC as daily work. 2. Animals, bad natures. They will take the initiative to attack, influence, or invade other individuals. This type of uncontrollable entity requires standardized containment and periodic pressure release according to their state to ensure that they are in a relatively stable state of control. If there is a comprehensive loss of control, they will be killed and cleaned up by the extermination department. 3. Monstrous. Character is hard to guess, mostly expressed in negative ways. When accommodating this type of uncontrollable entity, it is necessary to meet their physiological and interest needs as much as possible and provide a relatively comfortable containment environment. Every once in a while, a loss of control assessment will be conducted. For individual uncontrollable entities that are in good condition, you could try to trade with them, provide what they need, free time, and so on as bargaining chips. Ask them to assist in the creation of foreign objects, share knowledge, or assist in some special work. 4. Incomprehensible asterisk. This type of existence only accounts for 1% of the total number of containment units. They have extremely high thinking abilities that are above their peers. They can read in advance, observe, and even control the thoughts of employees. They can block, influence, and even modify the parameters of various thinking and mental detection devices. C. Existing psychological assessment and loss of control assessment methods cannot obtain correct results on such individuals. The standard containment model is not suitable. An exclusive containment plan needs to be tailored according to the relevant characteristics of such individuals. The plan needs to be personally reviewed by the committee and the director. The above is the classification. In addition, the classification of uncontrollable entities involved an important dividing line. If the level of uncontrollable entity is below King, they will be arranged for a test and divided according to their overall score by the numbers IX. If the level of uncontrollable entity reaches King, the current director will jointly with at least 5 members of the Supreme will to conduct a strength evaluation. According to the evaluation results given by each member, they're divided into the following 3 categories according to strength. Prince, Jack, Queen, King. Isn't this a little too exaggerated? The containment level is actually divided by King. Those below the King level are regarded as one category, and those above the King level are divided into 3 categories. This division also indirectly means that there must be a lot of kings among the uncontrollable entities. King level. Presumably, that was the old king of the hybrid demons. And the teacher that Deep House had mentioned before must have been a king. Maybe my tour route number 1 will be lucky enough to pass by a special area dedicated to King. Han Dong took a deep breath, adjusted his state of mind, and continued the tour. Beep. The work card was identified, and the sealed door was dismantled in a modular form. In the following tour, Han Dong arrived at several deep work departments one after another. He also found documents related to BC's core secrets from the sealed file cabinets and hidden folders of the central computer. In addition to the connection, management, and research of the uncontrollable world, BBC was still artificially creating some valuable uncontrollable entities to obtain more foreign resources. At the same time, they were also conducting captive breeding in some uncontrollable worlds. With the review of the confidential documents, Han Dong's understanding of BBC also continued to deepen. Of course, it was undeniable that the results of this research were also quite significant. It was precisely because of this that Black Tower secretly acquiesced to this rather extraordinary research behavior. When he passed through the 5th department, Han Dong stepped into a different passage. After the bracelet emitted a red light warning, it failed again. It seemed that the early part of the Route Number 1 journey was over, and he was about to enter the real in-depth tour. Chapter 1767. It was different from the previous high-tech building structure. The passageway Han Dong was in was made of ancient stones that were engraved with runes of laws. The patterns on the surface of the stone were connected, and the corners were inlaid with metal particles for regulation, forming a highly restrictive, closed structure. Even Han Dong, who was originally unaffected in the deeper zone, felt a sense of restriction. Since the restriction here was further strengthened, It basically meant that the area Han Dong was about to reach was the true appearance of the deeper zone. C. S core containment area. Similarly, the metal bracelet was also blocked. However, the red light shining in front of the shield was extremely dazzling, indicating that the area Han Dong was regarded as an absolute forbidden zone by Director Charles. It seems that the area I'm going to reach next is no longer the previous office area, but the real containment area. Moreover, it should be a relatively special containment area. After all, I took the first route. Han Dong still maintained a weak state. Since the restrictions here were greater, his image also needed to conform. Russell, he condensed a supporting staff with black sand and slowly moved through the passage. After a while, Han Dong walked out of the passage and came to a relatively bright and large central round hall. The reason why it was called the Central was because there were a total of 21 doors here. At the same time, there were eye-catching numbers engraved on the porch. Currently, there was only a number and no other information. Could these doors correspond to containment rooms? No, it's not that simple. Han Dong recalled that when he was in the deep room, there were a large number of containment rooms floating in the air. And according to the information Han Dong saw along the way, the number of original versions alone reached thousands. If the derivatives and the out-of-control bodies cultivated by the control headquarters were included, the number must be in the tens of thousands or even more. The number 21 is too small. Does it correspond to 21 management areas? That's not right. The materials used here are extremely expensive and different from other areas in the deeper zone. There will be no more derivative zones. This is probably a special, important area in the deeper zone that can only be reached by the first route. Very few. Could it be? Han Dong recalled an important piece of information he had read before. In the classification of uncontrollables, there was an extremely rare group called incomprehensible, which accounted for less than 1% of uncontrollables. To a certain extent, this kind of existence was beyond the BBC's containment methods. Special containment areas needed to be built to contain and manage them according to their characteristics. These existences were definitely powerful, and each of them was probably at the king level. The possibility is very high. The area I'm currently in is the special visitation area of Route 1, the reception area for the incomprehensible. Theory should have been nervous when making this inference. However, Han Dong could not suppress the excitement in his body. His disguise was almost broken by the crazy laughter, and he laughed in excitement at the center of the round hall. Cough, cough, cough. He suppressed his laughter with a few heavy coughs. At this moment, a frosted letter floated down from nowhere and landed precisely in front of Han Dong. Printed on the back of the envelope was an inverted pyramid, and below was a string of tiny words. Commission. Commission. I remember that this term was mentioned many times in the information I reviewed before. It seems to be a centralized department established by the BC to be in charge of special management work. It has the authority equivalent to the director on certain matters and can make certain decisions on behalf of the director. There is only one explanation for an exclusive letter to appear here. The commission has been corrupted, and even all the commissioners have been replaced by uncontrollables. Let's take a look at the contents of the letter first. Dear visitor, I'm glad that you can follow the rules and visit Route 1 normally to come here. I believe that combined with the information you've collected along the way, you can probably guess what this place is. Next, you need to make an important choice. Choose one of the doors and go deep inside. You only have one chance. This decision will affect and even change your future. Please choose carefully. Han Dong put the letter into his pocket, put his hands on his face, and thought seriously. I assume that this is the special containment area for the incomprehensible. Then, assuming that the commission has been controlled by the uncontrollables, then the choice I make next means that I will encounter one of the incomprehensible commissioners. If the above assumption is true, the other party's goal is obvious. Because I showed extremely high uncontrollable thoughts during the Q&A session in the deep room, they should want to recruit me. As for the method of recruitment, It depends on my choice whether it is forced or not. Han Dong leaned on his crutches and walked slowly along the edge of the hall, in front of each door. The special materials that made up the door body and the environment could almost completely seal the internal breath, but some subtle information could still be vaguely captured. Birds could be vaguely heard in front of door 1. A slight smell of feet could be smelled in front of door 2. There was the intermittent sound of fingernails being cut in front of door 3. There was a sweet smell on the surface of door 4. Along the way, in front of each door, he could capture the corresponding information through the most basic senses. Only door 19 stayed for a long time, because Han Dong heard a burst of sound similar to paper flipping from the inside, or the sound of a book being flipped. I'll choose this one. When Han Dong pushed open door 19, all the other doors disappeared and turned into an airtight stone wall. As the letter said, the choice had been made, and there was only one chance. Whoosh, 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 the regular sound of book flipping came clearly from the depths. As he moved along the dark passage, it was as if he was moving forward in the deep space of the universe. In the open space at the end of the passage, there was a 10m times 10m times 10m transparent storage room. The interior was set up as a private library. A thin and long body with arms and feet that were longer than ordinary people, and the fingertips were like synapses, was sitting at a desk reading a book. Han Dong did not observe the structure of the other party's eyes for the time being. It seemed to be reading by touching the book with its fingers. When the pages of the book flipped again, the uncontrollable body and the book it was reading all disappeared. Han Dong's current vision could not capture it all. Click! The next second, the bracelet on Han Dong's left wrist had been removed. The thin and long body that looked like an alien was holding the book it had just read in one hand, and the other hand was touching, observing, and analyzing the bracelet. An ethereal voice came from its fingertips. This is Director Charles's creation, right? I was once trapped by a ring of similar material. I didn't expect it to be made into such a smart device. As expected of the director. Can this thing recognize and read my information? Han Dong did not dare to move at all. He just stood there. The other party stretched out its fingers with synapses and gently touched the wall. The restrictions of the current area were immediately weakened. The shielded bracelet was also immediately restored. It released a red light to the maximum extent and projected a huge, forbidden font in the air. Warning. High-risk containment detected. Mr. Teacher, Teacher. Chapter 1768. The name displayed on the bracelet stunned Han Dong. Although he had foreseen in advance that he would meet Teacher if he followed Route 1, he didn't expect it to be so soon, and he had already come into direct contact with the other party. Even if he was mentally prepared, he couldn't help but feel a little panicked. But such panic was quickly suppressed by the surging excitement and madness. When he heard about the teacher from Deep House, Han Dong wanted to meet such an existence. Perhaps through contact with this existence, he could completely understand the source of C's loss of control and the current situation, and thoroughly understand the thing that Han Dong was most concerned about when he went to the containment tower this time. It was also the information that World S01 needed the most at the moment. What is the overall strength of this group of rampagers? If they really escape from the Black Tower, is it possible to threaten the fundamental safety of S01? Currently, Han Dong pretended to be a trembling weakling and didn't dare to look directly at such an existence. In fact, although Han Dong had his head down, he was carefully observing the lower body structure of the other party. If Teacher is compared to the upper level, whether it's the aura he exudes, the feeling he gives people, or the information I can sense, it's not as good as the old king I've seen before. It's not even as good as Deep House just now. There are two possibilities. One, this person's disguise is extremely good, whether it's the aura he exudes or the appearance, it's all fake. Two, the teacher in front of me is not his real body. The second possibility is more likely. This kind of existence must be focused on full control of C at the moment. It's impossible for him to receive me with his real body just because I got full marks in the Q&A session. At this moment, teacher actually put the bracelet back on Han Dong's arm. He stretched out a synaptic finger and pointed in the direction of the library's decorated containment chamber. Inspector from the Black Tower, are you interested in going in? Because you showed a satisfactory tendency to lose control in the Q&A session and successfully chose me in the committee selection. I hope to have an in-depth chat with you and give you an opportunity that most individuals can't hope for. Okay. He sat down in front of his desk. Han Dong noticed that the book teacher was reading was called The History of Renault. It should be a product left behind by a world that had lost control. At the same time, he quickly scanned through the books in the corner of his eyes. They were all famous books from different worlds, and every one of them had traces of being flipped through. There were even some books that had their edges flipped open. It could be seen that his teacher had indeed been studying here for a long time. Or rather, his current incarnation was specially left here to study. At this moment, a very strange feeling came from the back of his hand. It was like a soft tofu with a certain amount of friction. It was his teacher's synapse-like finger. 5 fingers gently stuck to the back of Han Dong's left hand, and even went into his shirt cuff, sliding between his arms. Death, Underworld, and Crow. I was wondering why a weak inspector like you would be sent here. It turns out that you have such a special characteristic. This arm didn't originally belong to you, right? You should be born with a receiving characteristic that allows you to connect the limbs of other individuals into your body and use it as a foundation for specialized development. I think it's the same for the other parts of your body. As he spoke, his teacher continued to reach out, wanting to continue touching Han Dong's body. This time, Han Dong instinctively moved to the side, seemingly a little shy. At the same time, he replied, "Yes, I came from the lost world of Pandora. Perhaps I was affected by the radiation of pyrolite in my mother's womb and was born with a missing arm and leg. When I tried to reconnect the limbs of others, I discovered that my body's acceptance level was very high. It was also because of this that I was chosen by Black Tower. My current limbs are all from outstanding individuals from different worlds." Han Dong made up a perfect lie in a short period of time. Even if his teacher wanted to verify it, he would discover that his arm was indeed fused with a multifunctional pyrolite characteristic. Furthermore, the world called Pandora had indeed been lost and annihilated. It's very special. However, such a diversified development should be very disadvantageous to your growth, right? Although you have already constructed a myth, you haven't even fully accepted the limitations of the deep level. Han Dong nodded and admitted his weakness. Yes, I was born with a weak physique. The reason why Black Tower chose me this time is to let me try to graft the limbs of a rampager so that I can quickly adapt and investigate the BBC problem. At this moment, the teacher's special fingers gently rested on Han Dong's shoulder. There's no need for that at all. You're in a pretty good state now. There's no need to graft other limbs. As long as you become my student and learn a little, you'll be able to adapt to the environment here. I can even help you resolve your body's shortcomings and fully exert your natural advantages under my guidance. Even the king, that you all know is extremely difficult and impossible to reach in your entire life, will become a relatively easy task under my guidance. Also, I believe that you've already seen the dirty side of the Black Tower along the way. Some of my students have been subjected to live research by these guys, and some worlds have even been reduced to their experimental grounds and breeding grounds. You don't agree with such a management model, do you? Somehow, when Han Dong heard the teacher's lecture, he couldn't help but nod. Become my student, Inspector Nicholas. This voice was similar to the whispers of the old kings, but it was also different. If the whispers of the old kings were compared to tentacles that drilled into the brain, they were evil, polluted, and full of danger. This voice was more like a gentle stream of water that seeped into the skull, enveloping the entire brain in a gentle manner before slowly seeping in. Even Han Dong's eyes showed a sense of agreement. His mouth was slowly opening as if he was about to agree to such a proposal. Some kind of connection was about to form between the two. Boom! Suddenly, A strong tremor came from below. The relationship between teacher and student was forcibly severed. For a moment, Han Dong could feel a strong killing intent from the teacher. The cracked mouth on the back of the teacher's hand whispered, "Hiss." The inspector in charge of leading this time seems to be very unfriendly. He actually caused such a huge commotion in the ring-shaped prison and seriously affected our management work. Why don't you read here for a while? I'll personally check the situation. Okay. Teacher, I want to ask you for one thing. I'm very willing to follow you to learn. The one causing trouble below should be Brother Headless. He has a bad temper, so I hope you can give him a way out. As long as it's a moldable talent, I'll give it a chance. Buzz. A form of teleportation in the form of erasing, as if the teacher used his finger to erase himself. After confirming that the teacher's aura had completely disappeared, the doctor's anxious voice immediately came from the head. "My lord, your state just now was very wrong. During your conversation, your thoughts were slowly led by this existence. I've never seen such an ability. There was clearly no ability to invade, and you could achieve thought guidance through the most conventional words. If it wasn't for the sudden movement, you..." However, an irrepressible smile appeared on Han Dong's face. "Doctor, what's the hurry? I seem to have found the real reason why C is out of control and is difficult to detect by various detection methods. Don't worry. Although this guy's speech therapy is very special and it was indeed a little dangerous just now, I'm not really being led around. I've already thought of a way to deal with it. I need to trouble you, doctor, to use my genes to temporarily create a bionic ghoul." Okay. Taking advantage of this gap, Han Dong clicked on the unrestricted wristband to check the information about teacher. Chapter 1769. Containment name. Mr. Teacher registration number. Original 019, out of control type. Incomprehensible out of control level. King warning asterisk. You're currently looking at one of the most dangerous out of control bodies in the BC Deep Containment Center. Due to authorization reasons, the containment measures and most of the description of this individual need to be blocked and filtered. However, considering that the individual may be in contact with Mr. Teacher, some information will be shown to you as a special case. If you can survive and leave the General Control Bureau, you will need to be personally inspected by the director. If you show any abnormalities, you will be treated as Original 019 and be forcibly contained. If you have a chance, please immediately escape from the current area to avoid contact with Mr. Teacher. The containment information is as follows: frowny face containment measures. Mr. Teacher's real body is currently contained in the miniaturized world, University of Kinettle, jointly created by the director and the Supreme Will. Every semester, between February and September of each year, at least 300 young people between the ages of 17 to 20 must be sent to this world for a 4-year university life. At the same time, a corresponding number of graduates, Original 019, must be brought back. Although Mr. Teacher's real body is still trapped in the miniaturized world, traces of Avatar, undefined, have been detected in some deep areas. Although his external avatar is not as strong as 1/10 of his real body, it is still a very dangerous existence. Description: Mr. Teacher's world of origin is subterranean world, data lost. It was first discovered in the subterranean world, Alanstad. The Black Tower did not find any abnormalities in the daily monitoring of this world. However, abnormalities were found in the feedback cleaning of the world's values, including the world's development rate, the total number of powerhouses, and the consumption of resources. When a special team, SPI, filtered, was sent to investigate the root cause of this world, it was found that Mr. Teacher, an individual who did not have a world identity, was working as a literature teacher in a world school. During the in-depth investigation, it was found that Mr. Teacher had achieved complete control of the school. Moreover, this seemingly ordinary school had secretly become the center of the world and controlled many of the world's lifelines. A subterranean world was unknowingly completely controlled by a world stowaway, and there was no abnormal feedback from the world monitor. This matter attracted the attention of the higher-ups of the Black Tower, namely the supreme will. Director Charles, letter C, was appointed as the overall person in charge of the capture operation. Under the Level 1 world lockdown, the target was captured alive. Mr. Teacher was brought back to the containment tower as an uncontrollable body. After 3 failed containment attempts, Mr. Teacher's category changed from weird to incomprehensible after the second failed containment attempt. Currently, the known characteristics of Mr. Teacher are as follows. Preach. Mr. Teacher can influence individuals through sound wave transmission in a conventional medium. The affected person will regard him as a teacher and accept the knowledge, values, outlook on life, and worldview imparted by him. Avatar. This ability has not been successfully analyzed. The following is only the inference provided by BC. After becoming a student, individuals who are influenced by the preaching could continue to learn from Mr. Teacher through some kind of deep consciousness connection in a specific material medium. In the process of deep learning, the individual student would change. Talented and receptive students may develop into Mr. F's incarnation. Note, this conversion rate is extremely low. According to statistics, it is only 0.003%. While Han Dong was reading the materials, his crazy smile remained unchanged. Sure enough, the deity is not here. If BC's inference is correct, the person who just received me should be an incarnation of a student. No wonder the aura and pressure emitted by him are relatively weak. This guy's purpose is quite obvious. He intends to train me, a top student who got 100 points in the question and answer session, and there's a high probability that I can inherit his teaching mantle when I graduate. Doctor, did you get the bionic ghoul? It has been cultivated. However, the body is still in the nascent stage. No need for a body. Directly put the ghoul's brain into the cranial cavity. This guy's preaching can only affect 1-to-1. Otherwise, you should also be affected. Since he wants to recruit students, I will let him recruit. With the precise control of the brain tentacles, a ghoul's brain that was quickly cultivated according to Han Dong's genes was successfully connected to the main brain of Han Dong. Before Mr. Teacher came back, first through the camouflage characteristics of the faceless, he modified the ghoul's brain on a deeper level, turning it into a perfect substitute. Even the ghoul's thought process was identical to Han Dong's. The primary and secondary were replaced. The ghoul's brain was responsible for the basic movements of the whole body, and Han Dong, the main body, would only transmit a subtle and imperceptible brainwave command when necessary. Buzz. As the tofu-like soft arm was placed on Han Dong's shoulder, the teacher returned. Han Dong asked anxiously, "Teacher, how is the headless brother?" A very stubborn, strong man. Considering that his strength and characteristics may be useful to us, we did not kill him directly. Instead, we temporarily imprisoned him in a special secret room that can change his mind. It won't be long before his stubborn thinking is resolved. I hope that his matter will not affect our relationship. If you need, I can also let you meet him. You can persuade him, perhaps reducing some pain and saving some time. Let's continue the conversation. As he spoke, the teacher held Han Dong's right hand with an affectionate posture. "Become my student, Inspector Nicholas." Okay. There was no infusion of energy, nor was there any contract signed. But Han Dong, who was hiding in the dark, could clearly feel that the ghoul's brain was undergoing a subtle change. However, this change was only the beginning. The whole thing was still under the control of Han Dong, the main body. There was no need for Han Dong to say more. Pink whiskers from the doctor's brain had quietly drilled into the ghoul's brain, analyzing its internal changes, trying to find the source of the influence of preaching. Very good. From now on, you are my student. I will give you a brief understanding of the current operation and overall situation of BC, so that you can clarify your position. At the same time, you can also see the seniors all over the collection tower. As soon as he finished speaking, she placed her soft finger on Han Dong's forehead. A broad and vast network of consciousness was opened. Whether it was the doctor or Han Dong himself, they all spied on this network of consciousness and were shocked by the situation in front of them. Inside and outside of the Black Tower Control headquarters, from shallow to deep, more than 90% of them had turned into students, including the person in charge that they first met in the shallow area. It's spectacular. Also, let me tell you a little secret. A large portion of the employees who work here are actually willing to become my students. I did not put any mental pressure on them. I just showed them some inside information about B, C, and the truth that they were used as props to fill the collection tower. Let's go outside for a walk. Chapter 1770. After establishing a teacher-student relationship, the two returned to the central hall with 21 doors that led to different special containment rooms. Since the teacher's door number was 19, its containment number was original 019. Han Dong guessed that the 21 doors here might correspond to the original containment area. Han Dong asked, "Is this the original containment area for the first generation? Does it correspond to numbers 1 to 21? That's not the case. This is a committee re-established by our group of so-called uncontrollable beings. Those who can be elected as committee members are all smart and powerful. As far as I'm concerned, I just prefer the number 19. Committee, yes, although we have control of the committee and about 90% of BC as control. But as long as Director Charles hasn't handed over the authority, some things involving the highest authority are still difficult to do. This is what we are currently working on. For example, my original body is imprisoned in a miniature world, and we are currently trying to pry open the entrance to this world by force. Including the committee members here, some of them, including me, are not my original body. When we have 100% of BC as authority in our hands, we will proceed to the next stage of the operation." Han Dong asked with a look of surprise. "The next stage? Will we break through the shackles of the control headquarters and confront the Black Tower head-on?" Mr. Sensei shook his synaptic fingers. "No, it's not that simple. After all, the guy with the original alphabet is very powerful. If a head-on conflict breaks out, we will still be at a disadvantage." Then, Mr. Sensei gently patted Han Dong on the shoulder. "When the time is right, you will naturally know." Even though the teacher-student relationship had been established, Mr. Sensei still had some reservations. However, Han Dong still learned a lot of important information. Just as Mr. M had predicted, there was not much time left. According to the progress of this group of uncontrollable beings, they would inevitably achieve 100% control within a few years. "Let's go. I'll show you something else." Mr. Sensei stepped out of the committee's round hall and came to the passage that Han Dong had walked through before. As the teacher's synaptic fingers floated, the channel immediately underwent a modular transfer, change, and reconstruction. It seemed to be connected to another important area of the headquarters. The spatial structure of the passageway is changing. Teachers should have the ability to change the spatial structure of any passageway in C to lead to the desired area. When that time comes, it will probably be very troublesome to escape. We can only take one step at a time. The tunnel change is complete as we approach the exit. A large number of cables appeared on the surface of the wall, and Han Dong could feel a dense spatial energy from the cables. However, this energy seemed to be extremely unstable, giving people a feeling that it was out of control. Han Dong could roughly guess where his teacher wanted to show him. When he stepped out of the tunnel, a huge space that looked like a nuclear power plant and was filled with pipelines appeared in front of him. A large number of employees in suits were working here. There were even some high-end talents who had obtained the Black Tower's engineer certificate. When Mr. F arrived, all of them stopped what they were doing and took a second to pay their respects to their teacher. The wristband also showed the name of the current area in blue font, Central Space Station. All the cables arranged here converged towards the center. A black metal building similar to the Mayan pyramid was located in the center. The cables were like the roots of this building, spreading underground. The top was on a four-corner platform shaped like an altar. A Rubik's Cube with a cubic structure, was suspended. Its size could not be estimated. According to Han Dong's rough observation from a distance, its size should be more than 100 by 100. Strong, chaotic spatial energy gathered in the Rubik's Cube. The teacher continued to lead Han Dong to the engineering platform where the Rubik's Cube was located and asked softly, "Can you guess what this is?" In fact, Han Dong had basically guessed it. The documents mentioned before mentioned that the world that was removed by the Black Tower's world management and seriously affected by the loss of control were all handed over to BC to manage. Combined with the current spatial energy, the sense of loss of control, and the feeling similar to the gate of destiny. This Rubik's Cube might be the integrated portal of the out-of-control world. Through some fixed sequence rotation, it might be able to open the portal corresponding to the out-of-control world or even have more exaggerated effects. While staring at this Rubik's Cube, for some reason, Han Dong's head buzzed, as if the prison world had a subtle resonance with this thing. Han Dong did not give a detailed speculation, but pretended to be shocked and asked, "Is it related to the out-of-control world?" "Yes. I call this thing the Rubik's Cube." We continue the research results of the original technical department and carry out a deeper transformation of this thing. It will become an important part of the next phase of action. Next, I'm going to let you travel to a part of the out-of-control world, which will be very helpful for your transformation and growth. Some of my excellent students are arranged in it. If you meet, you have to get along well. Although Han Dong was a little curious, he was naturally unwilling to do so. Not to mention how much time would be wasted inside. If he stayed here for a long time, the probability of being found out by the teacher would increase exponentially. Okay, no matter what the teacher arranges. However, before the relevant learning and transformation, can you let me see Brother Headless? Maybe under my persuasion, he can change his mind. Of course. But there's one more thing I have to confirm with you. Suddenly, the teacher put his face with a huge pit close to Han Dong. Small mouths grew in the pit of the face, and the voice went directly to Han Dong's brain. This time, the monitoring team sent 3 people. In addition to you and the leader, there's a strange woman. She suddenly committed suicide in the process of following the tour route. When the staff rushed to the scene, they only found some corpse remains. Do you know her specific origin? Han Dong pretended to be very sad. Is Sally dead? However, I know very little about her situation. This monitoring team was temporarily formed a week ago. Although I know Brother Headless, it's the first time I see Miss Sally. She seems to have just come to work in the monitoring department of the Black Tower. I privately inquired about the world she belongs to, but found that it was a high-level secret. Oh, is that so? Indeed. In the remains of her corpse, we detected an uncontrollable substance that we have never seen before. It seems to be related to S01, the earliest created world. Han Dong widened his eyes and made an expression of disbelief. S01. How is that possible? I have spent some time with Miss Sally, and I can't feel the aura of a hybrid demon from her. How could she be a hybrid demon? Such an evil, twisted, and dirty existence. I can only say that her disguise is quite good, and she also has a high level of awareness. Knowing that her identity will be exposed and that it is impossible to escape, she decisively self-destructed. We are also very interested in the earliest created world, S01. Perhaps we will have the opportunity to come in contact with it in the future. Let's go. Let's go see that king-level individual without a head. I hope his consciousness hasn't been completely destroyed. Otherwise, he can only be used as a walking corpse, and his value will be greatly reduced. Chapter 1771. Han Dong deliberately stayed at the bottom of the pedestal and did not get too close to the Rubik's Cube. This was to prevent the Rubik's Cube and the prison skull from reacting too strongly and causing unnecessary conflicts. As more and more information was ingested, Han Dong's main goal had gradually changed from continue to go deeper to how to escape. The information he had received so far had reached his expectations. If he continued to stay, his life might be in danger. However, there was still one thing that Han Dong did not quite understand. A simple analysis from the information collected so far. The main reason for BBC's irreversible loss of control was related to Mr. Teacher. His unique preaching could turn any independent individual into a student without causing any uncontrollable changes that would be monitored. When Mr. Teacher was brought back to the police station, the HQ definitely did not know about this. A smart guy like the teacher must have made a misleading disguise. He deliberately created some out-of-control students that would be detected by the device to mislead the headquarters' definition of his ability. Then, he secretly cultivated some real students that would not be detected. They would slowly grow within the headquarters and form the teacher's incarnation after a long time. With a full understanding of BBC's related mechanisms, he would find the loopholes and flaws in the staff management level. With this as the entry point, he officially began the slow infiltration that would take hundreds of years. But there was a problem here. Even if Mr. Teacher really did it flawlessly, the process of his development of students had never been detected. It was not until the scale of the students reached a rather large and irreversible base that Director Charles was able to see through it. There should be a solution, right? For example, let the Supreme will sneak into BBC in disguise and directly carry out a comprehensive purge from the deeper areas. Or send a few assassins with the highest will to the miniature world where the teacher was and secretly erase him. The above plans were theoretically feasible, but why were they not implemented? Unless, in the hands of the teacher, or in the hands of the rampager, there was a trump card that the Supreme will did not dare to use. If the internal purge was carried out or the teacher was killed, this trump card would be forced to be used. As a result, BBC, as the core of the Black Tower, would completely collapse or even self-destruct, causing great damage to the foundation of the Black Tower. It might even cause more serious consequences. When he thought of this, Han Dong looked at the Rubik's Cube again. That's right, this is it. This Rubik's Cube should be one of his trump cards. The out-of-control world itself symbolizes the disorder of order and the imbalance of rules. If tens of thousands of uncontrollable worlds were to spread out inside the Black Tower, the disaster would be devastating. Moreover, I have a feeling the advancement of this revolution did not rely solely on Mr. Teacher. The committee that was formed by the runaway should all be existences equal to Mr. Teacher or even stronger. I can only say that Mr. F.S. is the key to the infiltration and conduction work in the early stages. There should be stronger and deeper existences in charge of other projects, some projects that I can't foresee yet. It was precisely because Director Charles had seen through all of this that he didn't do anything drastic. The conclusion reached by the highest consciousness is to establish temporary cooperation with World S-01. Sizzle. A burst of pressurized steam spurted out. The gate, which was made of special crystals, was slowly being dismantled. A sense of restriction that was almost tangible assaulted him, as if a belt had tied up Han Dong's body. All kinds of giant containers used for confinement, restriction, and airtight storage were displayed inside. Nicholas, we're here. Your friend is being held inside and is undergoing mind modification. When Han Dong stepped in, a regional notification came from his bracelet. Mind modification area. Targeted at some extremely nasty and destructive runaway entities, mainly beasts. After modification, their temperament will become relatively gentle and more suitable for containment and control. Mind modification will destroy the individual's personality and even have side effects that affect their abilities, which is not conducive to follow-up research. Only a very small number of extremely nasty individuals will be brought here for modification. This description made Han Dong frown. Brother Headless should be fine. After all, he's a member of the club. All kinds of heart-wrenching screams resounded inside the modification area. Almost 90% of the equipment was in use. However, these people undergoing mind modification were not runaway entities, but some of the core staff of BBC, or rather capable supervisors, managers, or researchers. When Han Dong passed by, There was no change in his expression. The teacher was also silently paying attention to this point and showed a satisfied expression. Because your friend is rather special and belongs to a rare ghost, he needs to use a special device to modify his mind and is imprisoned in the spiritual body room in front. How about this? I'll give you 10 minutes. If persuasion doesn't work, let him complete the mind modification. Anyway, you will walk a completely different path in the future. As long as you follow me, your future development will far surpass this Ghost King. Okay, teacher, if you have something else to do, you can go ahead. I'll come back to you in 10 minutes. Han Dong put on a respectful expression and tried to send the teacher away in advance. I don't have much to do. Currently, all the things that happened in the headquarters have been arranged. Instead of going back to read, it's better to take this excellent student of yours around. If you can recruit a Ghost King at the same time, that would be even better. I'll wait outside the door. Go ahead. Okay. Although he failed to send the teacher away, it was just a little more trouble for Han Dong. Creak. The magnetic metal door of the spiritual body room opened. At a glance, Han Dong saw the headless, bound in midair by circles of metal magnetic fields. There were at least 20 black nuts nailed to the surface of the body. Bursts of high-frequency energy similar to electric currents were constantly injected into it. The overall strength of the mind modification was higher than that of the employees outside. But the headless didn't even let out a scream. Even though the whole body seemed to be a little weak, the aura of resentment it emitted was constantly scattered by the magnetic field. Han Dong came here because of Mr. Teacher's special permission. The employees temporarily stopped working and maintained the lowest frequency of energy output to ensure that the headless didn't have a chance to break free. They gave Han Dong 10 minutes to talk. Of course, they wouldn't leave. When Han Dong approached the headless, an eye condensed from resentment appeared in the belly of the headless, who was supposed to be unconscious and confused. Nicholas, you have been brother, headless. You'd better talk as little as possible and save some energy. We need to fight our way out later. Ha ha ha. Let me help you recover the state you should be in. Bursts of laughter at the consciousness level violently stimulated the consciousness of the headless that was about to faint. Some kind of crazy characteristic was being poured into the headless's body. Chapter 1772. When the crazy laughter on the consciousness level quietly flowed into the headless body, it was like a shot of cardiac stimulant directly poking the surface of the heart. Pa! The staff's palm fell on Han Dong's shoulder, trying to make him retreat a little. Please stop talking and temporarily leave the soul room. We have detected a very abnormal numerical fluctuation in the target. After we stabilize the target state, we will inform you to come in. However, in the face of the staff's friendly advice, Han Dong stood there unmoved. When the staff went forward to check on Han Dong's state, they found that he maintained an extremely exaggerated smile, the corners of his mouth almost tearing up to his earlobe. The moment he looked directly at the smile, an irresistible laughter directly affected the depths of his brain, and a similar expression slowly appeared on his face. Suddenly, the crazy laughter virus spread rapidly in the enclosed space when the staff were infected and their consciousness fell into a state of paralysis. Han Dong did not follow up with any follow-up actions. He did not use any attack to destroy the restraining device. He did not kill the staff affected by the virus. Instead, he made a rather panicked expression, as if what was in front of him was not his doing. At this time, click, 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 the restraining device made an abnormal sound. The headless body that was activated by the crazy laughter spewed out the most terrifying aura of resentment from its body. The resentment hair grew wildly on its neck, and even entangled in the air and turned into extremely gloomy arms, tearing all the restraining devices to pieces. Boom! The fat and heavy body fell from the air, and the ground was stepped with deep footprints. At this moment, Han Dong saw a different scene. Black Moon, Mountain of Corpses, Tori. The headless body stood on top of the mountain of corpses. Its body overlapped with the Black Moon. As the hair on its neck wriggled, the entire mountain of corpses was shaking violently. Hair drilled out from the neck of each corpse, connecting to the neck of the headless body and combining with it. Infusing resentment, it repaired the body's injuries. At the same time, the headless body squatted under the torii, as if it was digging something. One was an old wooden box containing the past. The broken samurai armor and the chipped samurai sword were taken out. When equipped, the headless body immediately turned into the strongest warrior of the past. Combined with the aura of the armor and the blade, a faintly discernible head appeared on its neck. But in the end, it didn't completely condense. All of the above were the artistic conception that Han Dong glimpsed. The actual situation was not that complicated. Within a second after Headless landed on the ground, his body was restored to its normal state through resentment. Dense resentment gushed out from every part of his body, condensing into a kind of broken armor that was both real and illusory, surrounding his entire body. Then he pulled out a katana with 3 attributes of flesh, willow, the wisp, and fine iron from his neck. At this moment, the employees were also temporarily resisting the laughingstock virus that was circling their brains. Just as they were about to show their skills, the blade had already slit their necks. The moment the head was cut off, ghostly arms condensed from resentment reached out and forcefully extracted the souls in their bodies, stuffing them into the headless stomach that was like a giant mouth, turning them into food. Beep, beep, beep. A red alarm sounded in the mind modification area. Boom! The metal door of the spirit body room was kicked to smithereens. Han Dong's fractured body flew out along with the steel fragments. Even his right arm was torn apart and barely connected by flesh and skin. The landing point happened to be right next to Mr. Teacher. Even though he was seriously injured, Han Dong still forced himself to convey a message of crisis to his teacher. Teacher, everything was normal during the conversation, but Brother Headless suddenly went berserk, broke free from the restraints of the device, and killed all the employees. Wah! As soon as he finished speaking, Han Dong spat out a big mouthful of blood. Because the spirit body room was completely sealed with magnetic materials, the teacher who was outside did not know what exactly happened inside. Although he was puzzled about how Headless broke free from the restraints, however, the teacher did not suspect Han Dong at all. After all, the teacher-student relationship had indeed been formed. With Han Dong's performance along the way, it was impossible for him to do anything against his will. Therefore, the problem was attributed to Headless. It seems that he deliberately held back. He was waiting for an opportunity like just now. What a tenacious spiritual life. It's a pity that he can only be killed. Mr. Teacher stared at the resentment aura that was constantly overflowing from the broken door and listened to the heavy footsteps. He spread out his arms. His synapse-like fingers seemed to be stuck to the space. Bang! He flicked his fingers. A solid space object was bounced into the door. Immediately after, he flicked his fingers continuously. Pieces of space objects that could be seen with the naked eye shot into the door like bullets. Waves of extremely resentful screams came from inside. It was as if Headless had suffered a painful injury in the form of stripping. The intensity of the resentment did not weaken at all. Instead, it became even more intense. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Waves of extremely terrifying resentment crazily overflowed. When it approached Mr. Teacher, the resentment instantly condensed into the appearance of Headless. When the ghost sword slashed, it was as if countless ghosts were pouncing on the target. But, ding, the crisp sound of metal colliding rang out, and the wailing sound disappeared. Mr. Teacher stretched out his right hand. His 5 open fingers peeled off a circle of forbidden space. It was like an indestructible mirror that isolated the ghost sword. Even the resentment could not penetrate. A mouth cracked open on the back of Mr. Teacher's hand and said simply, "I've already suppressed you once before. Since you don't want to admit defeat, let's do it again. However, this time, you and your fragile throne will be completely erased from the rules." just as Mr. Teacher's other hand was about to move. Buzz! A disturbing feeling of peeping came from behind him. It was as if there was an eye that even Mr. Teacher could not understand watching him from behind. It was prying into his body structure and weaknesses. Just as Mr. Teacher was puzzled and wanted to check the situation behind him. A long sword in the shape of a black stream had already pierced into his brain from the back of his neck. The piercing of the long sword could not be resisted at all. It directly touched the crucial layer of consciousness and destroyed some kind of root connection. It was as if his soul had been destroyed. The intense pain made the teacher's body full of deformed mouths. He let out a burst of sharp screams that could cause space to explode. Even several employees who were working nearby exploded and died. The defensive mode was also forced to be removed. The ghost sword condensed endless resentment and slashed into Mr. Teacher's head. It cut all the way to his abdomen before it barely stopped. Even so, Mr. Teacher was still not dead. He did not care about the headless in front of him, who was the biggest threat to him. Instead, he turned his gaze to the back. He looked at the excellent student, who stabbed him in the back with a puzzled expression. Why? The teacher-student relationship is already. Han Dong tilted his head with a puzzled expression. Already what? I just let a substitute be your student. You're really not qualified to be my teacher. In my eyes, you're just a guy who thinks he is infallible. Han Dong cracked open his mouth and laughed maniacally. He poked a finger directly into the brain, pulled out the bionic brain embedded in it, and crushed it with his foot. This wave of operation directly drew the hatred to the maximum. The next second, the headless used the wound formed by the slash to pull out the soul in Mr. Teacher's body with all its strength and swallowed it into its body. At this moment, the aura of resentment gushed out and even formed a huge ghost face behind the headless. Its aura sword. It occupied all the thought modification area. All the individuals were pulled to the ground by the ghost hand and turned into the headless food. The improvement brought about by swallowing the king level made the headless reach the peak in an instant and even had a breakthrough. At the same time, Miniature World, University of Kentucky, in the principal's office. Countless eyes and mouths opened in all kinds of books. The black shadow, sleeping on the office chair, was completely awake, and anger filled the entire campus. For a time, all the students distributed in B, C, received a wanted order of the highest level. Han Dong's appearance had become the most important memory of these students. Chapter 1773. Mr. Teacher's avatar conversion rate was very low. Moreover, it required a long period of education and training. For example, Han Dong, who had scored 100 points in the question and answer session, was an avatar candidate. If Han Dong was given a series of teaching and training, and then he could go to some transformed out-of-control worlds through the Rubik's Cube for training. At that time, the synchronization rate of Han Dong and Mr. Teacher's consciousness would increase unknowingly. If the synchronization rate could reach 100%, the final avatar ritual could be carried out. However, what Mr. Teacher did not expect was that such a weak individual, whose whole body was formed by the patchwork mode, had been wearing an unpredictable gray mask. The real appearance under the mask was even more dangerous than some Prince Jack. What made Mr. Teacher most surprised was that Han Dong could find a way to deal with the preaching with only the level of a mythical body, and he also had an eye that even Mr. Teacher could not understand. This I could spy on the core consciousness of the avatar. As a result, the last backstab became the key to victory. The third avatar developed from original, 073, Phase Walker, was also the space avatar that Mr. Teacher mainly used for external activities. It could easily shuttle through any area of the headquarters, quickly deal with all kinds of things, and at the same time, select some talented outsiders for training and development. At this moment, this avatar was ready to be completely killed. His heart was bleeding. Together with Han Dong's last taunt, his wrath points were maxed out. It was a pity that Mr. Teacher was still trapped in the miniature world and could not leave before completely seizing the authority. Mr. Teacher could only issue Han Dong's level 1 arrest order to all the students, including Deep House, who was in charge of the question and answer session. And another avatar with a different function was also involved in the pursuit of Han Dong. Without the pivot key, you can't escape from the depths. When the time comes, I will definitely catch you alive. When we get all the authority of C, I will see you in person. Someone must fill the vacancy of the third avatar. A talent like you who can deceive me is the best candidate. For a moment, the entire General Control Bureau became restless. Director Charles, who was in the monitoring room on the outer wall, also received a large number of abnormal parameter fluctuations. It was completely different from the usual calm state. His understanding of the headquarters was deeper than anyone else. This kind of parameter change might not be a big deal in the eyes of others, but to him, it was an emergency. Minto, come with me. Prepare to pick up your successor. This guy should be in big trouble inside. Mr. M also stayed here, although he still had some things to do. However, he was more curious about Han Dong's performance in the headquarters and whether he could find out the truth behind the loss of control through the tour. Only 13 hours had passed. Logically speaking, they should still be visiting the middle level, and they're already in trouble. The current C, can't be thought of using conventional ideas. If you don't want the air you've painstakingly cultivated to die, follow me. Charles's expression was unusually serious. Of course, he naturally wasn't worried about Han Dong's safety. Instead, he was rather curious as to what could cause such a huge internal disturbance. Logically speaking, an uncontrollable entity that was eroding his authority should be very careful, especially at the final stage. It should not have caused such a huge commotion. The only explanation was the involvement of Han Dong, the unknown factor. However, it was quite dangerous to rashly break into the deep level. Charles and Minto were just waiting at the door. Once they found that Han Dong was escaping in the shallow level area, they would take action and bring him out. Deep level, thought transformation area. The Headless, who had absorbed his teacher's incarnation with this soul devour characteristic, even had a feeling that he was about to transform. His overall level was equivalent to the old middle-level king. He continuously released resentment and evil spirit, affecting the space within a kilometer around him and turning it into a ghost realm. However, what shocked the Headless the most was Han Dong's performance. He couldn't imagine how Han Dong could lurk beside this terrifying teacher and even completely hide from him. Although he wanted to ask clearly now, time was of the essence. Nicholas, if this guy is killed, I'm afraid the entire deep level will be focused on us. Han Dong added, not only the deep level, but about 90% of the entire headquarters have become Mr. Minter students. The crisis will only be resolved if we completely escape the door. You can think of it this way. We're like an uncontrollable entity, and the entire C is staring at us. However, this space incarnation must be killed. Otherwise, we won't even have a chance to escape. Let's go. Where should we go? I was captured alive, so I don't know the internal route at all. I don't even know where the spindle room is. I know. Han Dong's right hand was grabbing an employee. The cackling virus had completely eroded his entire face, and his entire face had turned into a clown's appearance. A tentacle came out from the back of his head, and the memory extraction was completed. The map of the deep-level area has been extracted. The spindle room is not far from here. Follow me. All right, your hybrid demon friend should also be on a different tour route, right? Since you came here to find me first, shouldn't you hurry over to help her? As soon as he finished asking, a similar scene happened again. The half-human, half-goat child with the umbilical cord slid out of Han Dong's body. In just a few seconds, it grew to the appearance of a 7- or 8-year-old little girl. Let's go. When the three of them stepped out of the thought transformation area, the outside was already crowded with employees of the deep level. At the same time, there were some strange, uncontrollable entities mixed in. Some were crawling on the wall. Some were floating in the air. Some were even attached to the employees' backs. The right passage. When Han Dong pointed out the direction to escape, the Headless, who was in an excellent state, had already rushed out like an undead ghost king killing in the crowd. Han Dong immediately issued a mission. Sally, focus on pollution. Let these guys have a taste of what it's like to give birth. If you encounter king-level opponents, lead them to Big Brother Headless. Okay, Sally had been in Han Dong's body for a long time, and she was in an excellent state. As the abdomen shone with a charming purple light, a strange abdomen emblem was lit up. A special field was released. For those individuals who had not reached king level, their abdomens slowly bulged and showed signs of pregnancy. A kind of pollution that they had never experienced before was slowly eroding their whole body with the embryo as the center. Some employees with weak willpower and strength had even grown tentacle from their navels, and their mouths were full of a kind of hybrid demon language that they had never learned before. The chaos was instantly expanded. Han Dong used this gap to pass through layers of obstacles and came to the entrance of the passage that had been urgently sealed. A red light swept across. A senior manager's work ID was printed in Han Dong's hand. Beep, beep, beep. The passage opened. However, Han Dong did not step into it. A man with a height of 3 meters was standing at the end of the passage. His body was wrapped in a thick black raincoat. Under the dark brim of the hat, there was a pair of eyes emitting billowing black smoke. In his right hand was a book called The History of Latelian Civilization. Han Dong had already smelled a familiar scent. Mr. Teacher. The one who came was the teacher's 5th incarnation, developed from the original 771, Shadow in the Rain. Chapter 1774. An hour ago, it was Mr. Teacher's 3rd avatar who led Han Dong to complete the tour of the Rubik's Cube and headed toward the brain modification room where the Headless was. While thinking, there was a squirming movement between his eyebrows. Although the true devil had not fully opened, Han Dong's vision, or rather a kind of consciousness vision, became clearer, and even some of the essence of the 3rd avatar gradually became clearer. He even vaguely saw the main body of consciousness hidden in the back of the 3rd avatar's head, a spot of light that was looming inside. This change made Han Dong even more resolute in his plan to escape. When he killed the 3rd avatar, Phase Walker, not only did the Headless receive great benefits through this soul devouring, Han Dong also quietly inserted a syringe inlaid with gold and obtained the King's Cell Essence. This quality of cell essence would be used as the core resource for the subsequent upgrade of the head. It was equivalent to perfecting and expanding the prison world, at the same time, assisting in killing the king-level existence. Moreover, it was an existence comparable to the middle-level existence, which greatly stimulated Han Dong's thinking. This kind of stimulation and excitement could be turned into a kind of real nourishment through crazy laughter. These nourishment all gathered in the space between his eyebrows without any subjective drive. Han Dong had already clearly felt that the true devil eye between his eyebrows had matured, and it was up to him to decide when to open it. Passage entrance. Looking directly at the existence in the raincoat room, a great pressure swept through his body. Han Dong did not dare to make any unnecessary movements, and cold sweat flowed down his temples. Although it was clear from the beginning that Mr. Teacher had more than one avatar, Han Dong also speculated that the main avatar should be responsible for seizing the final authority of BBC, and it was very likely that he could not get out. He did not expect that after destroying the 3rd avatar that could perform space changes, another avatar would catch up so quickly and block the only escape route. Not only was there no way out behind him, even this stalemate situation could not be maintained for long. It was completely supported by the full strength of the Headless and the fertility field released by Sally. When the state of the Headless declined, its physical fitness began to be unable to keep up. When the employees gradually adapted to the pollution from Sally, the stalemate would be broken. It could be half an hour, it could be a quarter of an hour, or even less. Now, Han Dong could only think of 2 ways, both of which required enormous risk. Number 1, they changed their course of action. He changed the target from main axis area to space research room to avoid conflict with his teacher's incarnation. Han Dong had already marked the location of the world Rubik's Cube, so he could immediately take everyone there with void teleportation. With the help of the resonance between the brain and the magic cube, once Han Dong touched the magic cube, he might be able to control it. He could use the power of the magic cube to escape or cause large-scale spatial disturbances. However, since Han Dong had never touched the Rubik's Cube before, he couldn't guarantee that he would be able to touch it and control it. Moreover, for such an important thing, the other party must have set up security measures. There might even be someone more powerful than Mr. Teacher guarding the space research lab or the nearby area. Second, it was the most direct and simple method. Han Dong faced Mr. Teacher's unknown avatar directly. It was impossible to defeat it. He only wanted to temporarily restrain the other party and at the same time buy about 3 seconds to escape while exposing the opposite exit. The risk of this method was even more obvious. Due to the difference in their levels, Han Dong could very well be killed if he was not careful. He would not even have the chance to struggle. At the same time, there were also unknowns. He couldn't estimate the level of the shadow in the rain in front of him. If it was more powerful than the third avatar, then only death awaited. At this juncture, Han Dong didn't have any extra time to think about it. I found out and brought Green to help. If the two of us work together, we might have a chance. I'm going to die by myself. Ha! Suddenly, Han Dong, who was standing at the entrance of the passage, covered his face with one hand and laughed loudly. A pair of bloodshot eyes stared at the teacher in front of him through the gaps between his fingers. Ha ha! Mr. Teacher, you should go easy on me. For a student like me who got full marks in the question and answer session and has great potential, you should still want me, right? Don't break me. As soon as he finished speaking, Han Dong opened his left and right palms. He made an action similar to worshipping someone. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Fine gray tentacles, taken from the source of the soul, drilled out of his palms and intertwined with each other on the surface of his palms. He was drawing a magic circle related to soul borrowing. This method was fundamentally different from the previous method of building a soul borrowing array in the brain. Soul borrowing had changed as Han Dong became a mythical body. The effect brought by Faceless God, legendary trait. Soul borrowing, Faceless, had changed. The individual could achieve a copy on the level of divinity through advanced disguise, greatly reducing the cost of soul borrowing and increasing the total duration. The essence of soul borrowing. The original extremely burdensome soul borrowing allowed the individual and the avatar to merge on the level of soul. Some avatars would also merge on the level of consciousness. It had become soul borrowing, a more efficient method of soul borrowing that leaned more toward Han Dong. Come on, let me see how lucky I am today. The magic circle was activated in the palm of his hand. Mr. Teacher, who wanted to make a move, smelled a great danger that he could not understand. He could not understand how this young man with a mythical body could release such a terrifying aura. The leather shoes that had already stepped out of the raincoat room were taken back. The teacher even began to suspect that Han Dong's original body was a very powerful king. The mythical state that he was currently showing was just a disguise. He deliberately pretended to be weak and went deep to destroy his avatar to slow down the progress of seizing control of BC. If that was the case, the teacher would choose to suppress his anger and retreat. He did not want to lose 2 important avatars in one day. The overall situation was more important than private matters. However, this was still the teacher's guess. He needed to wait for Han Dong's transformation to be completed before he could consider it. Far away in the distant world of S01, the Grey Kingdom, Chernos, the Grey Walker had received the signal from Han Dong. However, due to the distance and being sealed by a special facility, the signal of soul borrowing was intermittent and could not even be maintained for a long time. Nicholas seems to be in a very dangerous situation. I think you should be investigating the loss of control in the Black Tower. Then I will lend you a more special avatar qualification. Due to the change in the form of soul borrowing, there is no need to use a method similar to excretion to extract a stream of fluid from the body like before. Considering Han Dong's current situation, the walker specially selected an avatar and passed the qualification to it. Buzz. A gray beam of light shot out of nowhere and enveloped Han Dong's body. A piece of gray fluid flowed on the surface of the gray divinity. One could vaguely see the structure of a mouth and tentacles falling into the palm of his hand, with the divinity as the center. The tentacles began to weave crazily, constructing a gray mask between his two palms. He knelt on the ground and put the mask on his face in the most devout posture. A voice echoed in his mind. The soul borrowing ritual has been responded. Avatar selected, Night Howl. Undergoing divinity embedding and deep imitation. Please wait a moment. Chapter 1775. The moment he put on the mask. Whether it was the headless body that was immersed in the slaughter, or the out-of-control body that was fighting against the headless body, or the employees who were muttering to themselves after being contaminated, or Sally, who was most concerned about Han Dong's situation. At this moment, they all stopped what they were doing. With Han Dong as the center, circles of thick gray air waves rippled out in all directions, where the gray fog pervaded. Whether it was the allies or the enemies, they could all hear waves of terrifying and crazy roars. However, the effect on them was completely different. The headless body seemed to hear the sound of the war drums of the past from the roars, stimulating him to find the hot-blooded feeling he had when he first fought on the battlefield. He even vaguely recalled himself before he was beheaded. He thought of the long-lost head. He thought of the appearance he once had. The resentment emitted from his body actually condensed into a cluster that resembled a head on his neck. His black hair fell to his shoulders. Although he could not see the specific facial structure clearly, he had already found the feeling. However, the enemy troops who were affected by the roars were in an extremely bad negative state, whether it was perception blocking or not. It was good to pierce the eardrums or smash the structure of the cochlea. It was even good to dig out the entire brain. The roars always existed in their brains. Even Wang Du could not completely block them. It was just that the degree of impact was different. It was as if the sound did not need any medium to carry it, and there was no need for signal conversion. Or rather, it belonged to something that surpassed sound. Some employees who had not yet adapted to birth, when they heard such a low roar, their thoughts were directly led to the Gray Kingdom and lived another life in a certain village. In reality, the employees whose consciousness was led away immediately ushered in total depravity. Their bodies had already undergone an irreversible depravity within a few seconds. Their arms were completely torn into several strip-shaped objects, swaying in the air like tentacles. Their facial features were all sunken in the middle of their cheeks, turning into a faceless person with a concave structure. At the same time, their abdomens were still in a bulging state of gestation, accelerating the production of a goat cub without a facial structure, and in a short period of time, it would grow into a bloodthirsty monster. A truly terrifying pollution had spread in the depths. Some special containment bodies, or king-level existences, could suppress the pollution and depravity brought by the roars. However, this kind of sound would also affect their actions and thoughts to a certain extent, so they needed to divert a portion of their energy to resist and suppress it. It was as if there was a twisted body hidden in the gray fog, constantly growling and hissing in their ears. Similarly, Sally was also strengthened by this roar. It also reminded her of her experience of following her mother to the Gray Kingdom. As they crossed the horizon and headed towards the kingdom, Sally unexpectedly spied a giant creature that was roaring endlessly on a vast plain. Just hearing such a roar was enough to make her feel fear at the level of her soul. Nicholas, did he borrow a god? It was as if I had seen it on the plains of Charnos. However, there was a difference between the two kinds of roars. Nicholas's roar was more penetrative, and there was no transmission process. It directly resounded in the brain. This is his unique roar. In the center of the gray fog, Han Dong, whose mask was completely attached to his face, had completed the ultimate level of transformation. Standing on 2 feet, he became a more stable 3-point support. His spine grew out of his body and turned into a 3rd pointy long leg. His left and right legs also turned into a conical structure, crossing each other and standing in a square triangle. His head turned into a tentacle, and all the organs except his mouth degenerated and disappeared. His mouth was a vertical structure running through his face, neck, and body. While he continued to growl, in the depths of his mouth, there was an eyeball that could move freely, an eyeball that even Mr. Teacher couldn't understand. The borrowing ritual has been responded. Avatar selected, Night Roar. Divine Spark embedding and deep imitation have been completed. Rating, A. High-level avatar ranked at the top. Applicability, S. Due to the high adaptability of the individual, mythical puzzle, Faceless, is of legendary quality, and the avatar has a high compatibility with the main body's crazy laughter characteristic. The maximum potential of the avatar is 100%. The adaptive effect has been combined with the individual's crazy laughter and the avatar's low roar. Ability points: Frowny Face Strength, B- durability, A+ agility, S magic power, D luck, A. The avatar's abilities have been upgraded: Frowny Face, Crazy Laughter, Mad Roar. As long as the avatar is not completely killed and the avatar's avatar is not in contact with the avatar, the roar will always exist. It has a 100% effect on the main target and a 50% effect on the surrounding secondary targets. At the same time, it will strengthen allies. Territory has been upgraded to Gray Plain. This territory cannot be blocked, offset, or covered. Any individual in the plane will be affected by the Mad Roar. Special note: Night Roar has a high agility when in the plane. Even the casting speed will be affected. When the gray fog that hovered around the avatar sank, the metal ground immediately turned into a gray plane structure. When Mr. Teacher saw Han Dong's new posture, he also had a puzzled expression on his face. He clearly felt the danger. But what the avatar emitted was only a mythical aura. Similarly, the avatar's main target was his teacher. 100% of the roar resounded in his mind, making him feel very uncomfortable. Even the other avatars that were in the process of seizing authority, as well as the main body in the miniature world, could hear the harsh and uncomfortable roar. Whoosh! Raindrops fell and hit the surface of the teacher's raincoat. The sound of the rain suppressed the roar, reducing the impact. It should be a forbidden technique that can forcibly increase one's ability in a short period of time. It's not like what I hypothesized. He's still a mythical body, but very special and full of S01 pollution. This guy is very valuable. Try to capture him alive. Drip! A drop of rain suddenly fell on Han Dong's shoulder. The teacher, who was standing at the end of the passage, used the rain as a medium and pressed his palm on Han Dong's shoulder. At the same time, he suppressed the king level. A dark, sharp umbrella pierced through his sleeve. Once it pierced into the avatar's body, it would cause unexpected consequences. Whoosh! However, the umbrella only pierced through the rain. The strange young man, who was suppressed with one hand, had already reached the other end of the passage. His speed was astonishing. At the same time, in the god form, an eyeball slowly appeared in his lengthened mouth. It was the true devil eye. In a night roar form, the true devil eye could also exert its true strength. Through the series of contacts just now and the observation of the true devil, he had obtained the detailed information of the teacher's avatar. He even peeked at the number 5 in his consciousness, which represented the 5th avatar. A flowing demon sword drilled out of his palm and was tightly held in his hand. Chapter 1776. Shadow in the Rain. The rainwater formed by the domain can be used as a transfer medium, easily achieving a seamless transfer. Moreover, The rainwater also has the characteristics of erosion and occupation. If I stay in the domain for a long time, the rainwater storage in my body will continue to increase. Even Night Roar's body can't avoid it. However, the rainwater that seeps in my body can't be used as a transfer medium. The increase of the rainwater storage will cause the weight of the body to increase, and the various defenses will gradually weaken. When it reaches a fixed amount, 30%, 50%, 70%, it will produce quite serious negative effects. Once the negative effects take effect, I will die without a doubt. I must fight for a chance to escape in a short time. However, the most dangerous point is, it is the umbrella constructed by the black substance in his body. The contact just now was to insert the umbrella into my body. Once it is inserted, the umbrella will open in my body. No matter how strong my body is and what defensive characteristics it has, it will open along with the umbrella. I will lose all mobility and turn into a human umbrella. I will be completely controlled and impossible to break free. It seems that the fifth incarnation is obviously used to capture me alive. It is also a relatively weak incarnation under the teacher's command. It seems that my ridicule is far from enough. He is still focused on capturing me alive. Haha, interesting. The above was the information observed by the true devils during the first battle. Han Dong also made a battle plan based on this information. In the tunnel, the low roar continued. Even if the rainwater increased, it was difficult to offset it. It was as if there were crawlers with the ability to growl constantly on the surface of the brain. It made Mr. Teacher more and more irritated and eager to end the battle. Moreover, as time passed, the teacher not only did not slowly adapt to the roar, but the effect was still growing. Even a creature stepping on the plains was reflected in his mind. Drip! When the sound of raindrops came, the black shadow immediately arrived. But this time, Mr. Teacher didn't even touch Han Dong before he was slipped away. It was as if he had dodged in advance. There is no process for the formation of the rain. How could he dodge in advance? Foresight? Walla Walla, the rainfall in the tunnel was getting heavier and heavier, and there were fewer and fewer places to hide. However, Han Dong, who stood and moved on 3 legs, was like a wanderer on the plains. It could accurately predict the formation time and landing position of each raindrop, and plan a route that would not be touched by the raindrops. Thus, it could travel at high speed, walking slowly in the rain. Not only was there not too much pressure, it even put Han Dong in an extremely excited state. A scene that he had never seen before appeared before his eyes. I can see it clearly. I can clearly see the movement of all the raindrops, where they fall, and even where they are produced. I can even achieve a certain degree of precognition. So clear. I had never had such a clear visual experience before. My eyes were actively helping me analyze the movement of matter in every inch of space. Was this the true devil eyes? Moreover, I can feel that the true devil eye can continue to grow, and it can be further perfected as the other parts of the devil tome are completed. Just as Han Dong was immersed in the powerful vision granted by the true devil eye, a pressure that exceeded his expectations instantly hit him. The difference in level was difficult to make up for even with the soul-borrowing skill, not to mention that his opponent was not an ordinary king. The rain stopped falling. Instead, it floated in different areas in the air in the shape of water droplets, and the number increased as time passed. The raincoat on Mr. Teacher's body was taken off, revealing the true appearance of the incarnation. Black smoke kept coming out his eyes. His whole body was covered with umbrellas. Some of the umbrella heads were embedded on the surface of his body. Some of the umbrellas went through his body, and some of the parts showed some rain ridges. Rainwater kept flowing out of his black hair, ears, and mouth, sliding down his body. I didn't expect that to deal with a mythical body like you, I would need to use the real power of the incarnation. He stretched out his right hand. Snap! He snapped his fingers. All the raindrops floating in the air flew toward Han Dong, moving several times faster than the rain. Due to the limitation of the narrow passage, it was impossible to avoid the rain. Even if Han Dong captured the movement of each raindrop, and tried his best to wave the magic sword to annihilate some of the raindrops, he would still inevitably hit them head-on. Once he came into contact with the rainwater, it would seep into his body. With the increase of the accumulated rain, Han Dong's speed began to slow down. When it reached the limit of 30%, buzz, Han Dong's consciousness suddenly trembled, and his movement speed was severely reduced. A rather uncomfortable feeling of swelling came from all parts of his body. He looked down. Large fist-sized blisters filled with rainwater were all over his body. Moreover, these blisters gave Han Dong a very dangerous feeling. Due to the sudden drop in speed, Mr. Teacher seized the opportunity. Two powerful black palms pinched Han Dong's left and right shoulders and squeezed the blisters on his shoulders. Snap! The blisters burst. What flowed out was not only rainwater and tissue fluid, but also a large amount of life essence. The intense pain made Han Dong struggle madly, letting out a series of sad roars. Got you! Swish! There was no pause in his movements. A black umbrella stabbed into Han Dong's abdomen from the front, right in the center of the black vortex. Although Mr. Teacher did not want to kill Han Dong, he still wanted to vent his anger. He bent down and put his face, which was constantly dripping with rain and black smoke, close to Han Dong. Be a good student of mine. I will slowly teach you. However, Han Dong, who was originally in pain, suddenly changed his expression. While Mr. Teacher put his face close to his face, he whispered softly, "Teacher, I deliberately let you come in. Didn't you notice something? The roar in your brain is getting clearer and clearer. You're the main body of the roar. You really don't pay attention at all." The vertical mouth in the night roar state was fully open. In a situation where there was zero distance between them, the roar was maximized. The roar of the lunatic, which was obtained by the fusion of the mad laughter and the characteristics of the divine spark, also had the effect of accumulation and had reached a certain limit. With Han Dong's roar at zero distance, the effect of the roar accumulated in his body was activated. It was as if a virus in its incubation period had fully erupted. A very terrifying internal explosion was generated in his body. Snap! The head and upper body of the shadow in the rain were blown up together. One could even see the black vortex in the explosion area that looked like the mouth of the night roar. His soul was damaged. At this moment, Mr. Teacher's original body and the other incarnations all made a gesture of covering their ears at the same time. If this move was used on an individual of the same level, no one would be able to withstand it. But the shadow in the rain, who was at the king level, was only injured. The rainwater in the passage was gathering toward the exploded body parts, nourishing the soul and trying to reconstruct a whole body. However, for Han Dong, it was enough. He had bought enough time. At the same time, he also received a notification from the system. The mythical puzzle of the Mad Laughter's journey has increased to 80%. Brother Headless, Sally, hurry up and retreat. Han Dong was still in the state of borrowed spirit. With blisters all over his body, he rushed to the front of the team. With the help of the printer's characteristics, he printed the identification documents needed for the passage in advance. Once they encountered a king-level existence, Headless would stop them. With the double pollution brought by Han Dong and Sally, they tore open a passage to the spindle room. Fortunately, they did not encounter any king-level existences. After all, the control of C had not been completely lost. Most of the truly dangerous existences were trapped in the miniature world or special containment measures, just like Mr. Teacher. They needed to seize the deepest level of authority to release these guys. They arrived at the spindle room. Although the red printer was unsolvable, it could not print the spindle key that had never been recorded. Nicholas, how can we go without the key? The spindle key is just a space guide device. Just follow me in. I will play the role. Headless wanted to say something, but there was no way out. Behind them were all the uncontrollable entities. Once a real powerhouse caught up, they would not even have a chance to fight back. Hand in hand, with Han Dong as the leader, they jumped into the space spindle. Han Dong, who had experienced a transfer, had basically analyzed the operating principle of the spindle. He held a brief history of the void in his hand. Bursts of starlight covered his body, allowing his body to slowly fit into the space of the spindle. Whoosh! The moment the transfer was completed, everyone's wristbands immediately emitted a bright red light that had never been seen before, but it immediately lost its effect and was completely blocked. The transfer area was also the spindle room on a certain floor of BC, but they did not want to go to the shallow floor as expected. After all, they had angered Mr. Teacher. The spindle room on the shallow floor must have been surrounded by Mr. Teacher's students. There was no one in the spindle room in front of them. It was empty and quiet. Neither Mr. Teacher's students came chasing, nor did any uncontrollable entities come. They did not even feel any danger. What is this place? P.S. I wish everyone a happy Mid-Autumn Festival. I will take half a day off and take Fatty out to play tonight. Chapter 1777. Headless, who was about to break out of the encirclement, but when he saw the empty scene in front of him, he was stunned. The overflowing fighting spirit and the temporary head that was condensed at the neck slowly dissipated. However, Headless had already found the feeling of the past, as well as some memories of the past, coupled with the improvement brought by devouring the phase walker. Now he could condense the rough outline of a head at any time, which represented the improvement of his strength. However, the facial features of the head were still unclear, and it was still a little far from forming a real head. Even Headless himself didn't expect that following Han Dong to be BC, which was requested by the boss, would lead to such an unexpected gain. Skulls dragged their tails around the spindle room, trying to search for the hidden life, but to no avail. There was no one at all. Headless asked with a puzzled expression, "Nicholas, this isn't the shallow level, is it? According to the trouble we've caused so far, the spindle room on every level should be surrounded by enemies. Why is there no one here? Even the king-level existence who was chasing us didn't follow us. I didn't even sense any aura. Logically speaking, I've already been left with several battle marks on my body. It should be easy to locate. This might be a deeper place. Let's take a look first." Headless sensed that something was wrong in the context and hurriedly asked, "Nicholas, is it not an accidental teleportation? You should be able to locate the shallow level, but you deliberately brought us here, right?" Han Dong wasn't in a hurry to respond to Headless. Instead, he first removed spirit borrowing. Although the energy consumption and burden of spirit borrowing had been greatly reduced, there was no need to continue maintaining it since there was no danger for the time being. There were still many uncomfortable blisters all over his body that needed to be removed slowly. Han Dong had no intention of hiding anything. As he walked towards the exit of the spindle room, he said, "In the beginning, I did want to teleport everyone to the shallow layer and kill our way out. But when I became one with the space of the main axis and truly observed the structure of the main axis, I discovered a secret hidden in the depths of the main axis that controlled the main axis. In addition to the shallow level, the middle level, and the deep level, there is also a fourth level." Han Dong constructed a vertical pole with his left hand, connecting a block at the top, middle, and bottom. We liken this pole to a spindle structure that connects the inside and outside of the control headquarters. It is divided into shallow, middle, and deep, 3 completely isolated and independent depth areas. You can go to the corresponding depth through the adaptable rotary key, but outside the main axis. Speaking of which, Han Dong controlled the black sand to construct a crystal cube at a place relatively far away from the vertical pole. It was connected to the main shaft through a curved, slender thread. There is a fourth layer connected to the axis here. It is deeper than the deeper layer and is hidden. I only discovered the existence of this layer because I completely merged with the main axis. Considering that the shallow level spindle room has been surrounded and my condition isn't good, it's better to take shelter here." The headless belly scrunched up. "Deeper than that? I've never heard of such an area. How can you be so sure that there's no danger here that you change your mind and asked us to take refuge here? Han Dong thought for a moment. Intuition. Anyway, there are still 24 hours left before our visit time limit. Let's wait for a while before returning to the shallow layer. Okay. The headless head was still very satisfied with the journey, and as a club member, he had a certain crazy characteristic. He was more excited about coming to this unknown area. Sally didn't care. As long as Han Dong was by her side, she didn't care where she was. Anyway, the entire Black Tower was an unknown area to her. She had now grown to the age of 16 or 17. Keeping her tail on the ground, she could sense any sudden danger around her at any time. When they stepped out of the spindle room, it corresponded to a long metal passage. Each metal plate corresponded to an extremely complicated chip structure. All kinds of electric currents, information, and unknown energy were transmitted between the chips. They all flowed toward the depths, as if they had stepped into a large computer room. It was different from any area they had visited before when they visited C. This building structure can only block signals. It doesn't have any more restrictions, suppression, or even binding effects. Even a very ordinary, uncontrollable entity can do whatever they want here. Well, there are basically no restrictions in the passage. This doesn't seem like an area where uncontrollable entities are locked up. However, when the three of them walked through the hundreds of meters long passage, Buzz, even the headless head who was the king, temporarily lost consciousness at this moment. His body staggered and he knelt on one knee. Han Dong and Sally didn't need to be mentioned. When they stepped out of the passage, their eyes instantly lost their color and they fell to the ground together. Han Dong accidentally crushed a few blisters when he fell. It was so painful that he almost bit off his tongue. The reason for this situation was very simple. Although the passage just now didn't have any restrictions. But when they stepped out of the passage, the restrictions instantly soared to 100 times the average in the deeper layer. This sudden change in the difference was simply impossible to adapt to. What exactly is this place? The black vortex rotated. Han Dong turned into the image of Faceless One and tried his best to adapt to the extreme oppression in the current area. Moreover, Han Dong was very clear about one thing. He was just at the edge of the current area. For individuals who were really restricted, the effect might be tens or hundreds of times more. He already had a guess about what the fourth layer was. When he slowly stood up and looked up, a super large spherical space was reflected in his eyes. Even if the magic eye could see through every chip panel that made up the spherical space, it couldn't analyze its operating principle. The technological complexity here was far beyond all the technological products Han Dong had ever seen. In addition, there were also 3 overlapping metal rings suspended in the center, but with different rotation speeds, like a special confinement device. The passage they walked through turned into an independent long bridge here, extending to the center of the spherical space. The end was equipped with a plain control console. Sally, don't get close. Brother Headless, and I will go and take a look. Okay. Although Sally could barely stand, there was no need to waste her stamina here. With the help of Headless, Han Dong slowly approached the control console at the end. As his palm fell on the surface of the control console, the wristband emitted a faint light, and the built-in program was activated. The identity of the controller has been entered into the Visitor Authority allocation. The area you are currently in is the final stop of this tour. Control Terminal. You have the right to browse the highest containment here through the control panel. The core information has been blocked, but you have no right to carry out any substantive control. When the voice message ended, the panel showed the documents of the controllable entities, and one of the documents was Mr. Teacher. As Han Dong clicked on the selection, the overlapping rings in the center began to rotate, and a square crystal appeared in the center. Through it, he could vaguely see a miniature world with the structure of a university. Now, he completely understood. This is the Black Tower's final clearance area. It is also the area that the controllable entities are trying to conquer. The most dangerous and fatal controllable entities marked as incomprehensible are all contained here. Han Dong touched the sliding bar of the control panel, and a total of 21 documents were displayed. Mr. Teacher was at the back of the list. As Han Dong browsed the document information in the panel, beads of sweat the size of beans slid down his cheeks. Chapter 1778. No wonder the Black Tower is so panicked. They're willing to risk everything to re-establish contact with S-01 and try to establish a special cooperation, hoping to borrow the power of the hybrid demons to deal with the situation here. But even if the cooperation is successful, the old kings are willing to provide some assistance. But to really deal with the situation here, the price must be paid, and it will not be small. It may even be a problem whether the Black Tower can be saved. What will happen will depend on what these uncontrollable entities do after they obtain 100% of the authority of the headquarters. If I were them, I would definitely not start a conflict with the Black Tower. After all, the Supreme is not easy to deal with. But this is not something I need to worry about. My goal has been achieved. Sigh, I just need to take a good rest. Han Dong was sure that the fourth floor was absolutely safe. According to the estimated time given by the Black Tower, it would take at least a few years for the uncontrollable entities to infiltrate this place. After checking the available information, Han Dong took the initiative to leave the restricted area. He even crawled out of the last section. When he returned to the passage, the feeling of relief was too comfortable. Headless leaned against the wall and rested for a while. His belly squeezed out a rather serious expression. It was obvious that he was frightened by the information he had just read. No wonder the boss is coming to the club less and less. I didn't expect the situation to be so serious. I was just about to ask you for a favor, Nicholas. Now it seems that you have a lot to prepare. After all, you're an important middleman between the Black Tower and World S-01. Han Dong, who had returned to the passage, stretched his body lazily. As he used his blood to slowly remove the blisters, he asked, "If I'm not wrong, the thing that Brother Headless wants me to help you with should be related to your head, right?" "Yes, when this is over, I'll definitely get your head back." For the rest of the time, the three of them stayed in the spindle room to rest, trying to adjust themselves to their best condition. Han Dong, who had removed the blisters, even took the time to take a nap. Shallow level, spindle room. After Mr. Teacher's fifth body healed, there were still some roars left in his head. His hatred for Han Dong had reached a new peak. When he learned that Han Dong had escaped into the main shaft, he immediately ordered all the students in the shallow layer to surround the main shaft. However, his teacher did not arrange for the fifth incarnation to chase after them. The reason was simple. Before seizing the final control, BBC had to maintain a normal appearance as much as possible, and at the same time, ensure that the combat power in the deeper areas was sufficient. All avatars must remain in the deeper zone. If Black Tower's special team launched a surprise attack on the deeper levels, they had to ensure that their trump cards could be used normally. Even though he hated Han Dong to the core, he was still able to do so. However, his teacher still maintained his rare rationality. He would not bring any negative effects to this great opportunity because of his impulsiveness. However, the students in the shallow layer did not send back any information. More than 10 hours had passed, but there was still no reaction from the main shaft. The students reported the situation to their teachers through the consciousness network. Could it be that Charles has equipped these guys with special teleportation equipment that can directly teleport them to the area near the gate through the main axis? Has he already let them escape? There's no need to continue wasting time. Arrange for a small number of people to stay in the main shaft room and maintain the normal operation of the monitoring. The rest of you return to your posts. Don't disrupt your learning rhythm. Yes, just as the teacher slowly suppressed the anger in his heart and focused his energy on the work at hand, only a few hours had passed. There was a sudden commotion in the shallow layer. The main shaft had captured the target, who was fleeing rapidly. when his consciousness descended on the body of one of the students with a higher synchronization rate. He was suddenly stunned and did not even dare to move for a moment. The stairwell in the shallow layer was filled with a white liquid. Because of the existence of this liquid, the overall structure of the space corridor was changed, and all the employees who were chasing here were trapped. This is not Charles's ability. Mr. Teacher forcibly sent a part of his ability to the temporarily possessed student, resisting the restraints of the modeling liquid, and chased to the hall area. He saw that Han Dong and his companions, who looked relaxed, had successfully stepped out of BBC's gate. At the same time, there were two existences who exuded a strong aura standing beside them. The teacher could even vaguely glimpse the structure of two rather clear letters from the aura. The M, constructed by the white liquid, and the C, formed by the locking rings at this moment. Director Charles, who was just about to walk out of the gate, seemed to feel a familiar sense of prying. He stopped and turned around. When he looked over, the teacher had withdrawn his consciousness, leaving only an employee with dull eyes strolling in the hall. In the principal's office of the miniature world, the teacher turned the pen in his hand, and on the table was a hand-drawn structural diagram of the headquarters of the control department. Two holders of the original alphabet came to pick him up in person. This kid's background is really big. It's okay. Good things should be tasted last. As long as our plan is successfully carried out, even if this kid escapes back to World S01, he will eventually become my incarnation. In the temporary office of the director, Han Dong was describing the visit. When he mentioned meeting with Mr. Teacher, Mr. M's eyes immediately changed, and streams of modeling liquid were secreted in an attempt to seal Han Dong. Meeting with such an existence meant that Han Dong needed to undergo an in-depth mental examination. However, Charles waved his hand to stop and motioned for Han Dong to continue. When it came to how he deceived the teacher, followed him to visit the Rubik's Cube, and subsequently joined forces to kill his third incarnation, even Charles couldn't sit still. He hurriedly reached out and performed an in-depth thought check on Han Dong's head to ensure that Han Dong wasn't lying. After verifying the truth of the matter, Mr. M's palm rubbed Han Dong's shoulder hard and praised. "You're really something? Pretty good. With this experience, you can have another powerful story to convince those old antiques when I take you to the Supreme will later." Even Director Charles nodded. "Well, your performance was higher than I expected. Being able to kill the teacher's space incarnation can be considered a great contribution to the stability of the BBC's work." After finishing all the stories, Director Charles used the in-depth examination as an excuse to temporarily send Mr. M away and let Han Dong stay in his office alone. He reached out and hooked his hand. The red printer hanging on Han Dong's waist was taken back to the director's hand. "You can't take this thing away. This is an inherent asset of the Black Tower." "Of course. However, if you can promise me one thing, I can pretend that I didn't see it and quietly give this thing to you for safekeeping as a lost item." "Director, if you have anything to say, I will do my best. Have you considered being my successor? In my opinion, compared to creating a world, you seem to be more suitable for control." Han Dong was taken aback by the sudden recruitment. "Huh, what? I'm a lazy person. Take my own manor, for example. It's basically handed over to my subordinates to manage. And Mr. M has been helping me all this time. It's really hard to go back on his word." Director Charles's expression didn't change. It seemed that Han Dong's rejection was within his expectations. "Well, I just mentioned it casually. There's no other meaning. By the way, about the tour, you should have one more thing to say, right?" Han Dong took off his bracelet and handed it over with a bow. "Thank you, Director Charles, for the comprehensive tour. This bracelet is not a guide device, but a guide device. You know very well that if we want to return from the depths, we will definitely encounter trouble, and it will be difficult to get the rotary key. This bracelet is a backup. If we can figure out how the access works, the bracelet will open the access to the 4th floor for us." "Very smart. However, being able to go to the 4th floor is more of your own ability. Bring back the information you saw on the 4th floor to S01. This should be enough to attract the attention of the hybrid demons. Thank you, Director. Chapter 1779. The danger level of the comprehensive tour was higher than Han Dong expected, but the final result was also better than expected. If such information was brought back, World S01 would definitely take it seriously. Moreover, Han Dong himself also felt a sense of satisfaction. He had a comprehensive understanding of the concept of the containment tower and had a very direct contact with the runaway entity. In particular, the contact with Mr. Teacher, the psychological game, and the battle of clones made Han Dong exclaim in satisfaction. Because of Han Dong's excellent performance this time, Mr. M officially put the candidate matter on the agenda and prepared to arrange for Han Dong to participate in a normal meeting of the highest will in the near future. At present, there were several holders of the original alphabet who would inevitably support Han Dong, a young man with a special identity. After briefly explaining the matters of the meeting, Mr. M first returned to the Black Tower's upper floor. A lot of time had been delayed in the past few days, and there were many things to deal with. He also needed to organize Han Dong's life story into a detailed file. Just like that, the tour of BC officially ended. After the incident, they were received by Chief Charles, so there was no need for further inspection when they left through the BC. Brother Headless, thank you so much this time. As soon as Han Dong finished his words of thanks, his fat piled on his belly directly pressed against him. A voice came from the fat between his belly. I should be the one thanking you. I've gained a lot this time, and I've been saved by you once, Nicholas. I'll remember this favor. If you need help, come to the club at any time. Come back to the club with me? Your friend is still there. Han Dong waved his hand. Brother Headless, go back first. Help me take care of Green in secret. I still have some things to do here. I estimate that his 18 challenge should be about the same. If he can really pass this challenge, it will definitely cause a lot of excitement. As the department head, I'll definitely take care of such an excellent member. Go do your thing. Okay. Han Dong still had many personal matters to deal with personally. First, it was about Count. Count, who had reached the peak of atavism and was recognized by the demonic book, Lord Xian's 7 chapters Secret Sutra, urgently needed to go to the world corresponding to his essence, Dawn of Terror. With the underworld blood as the foundation, he could break through to the mythical level. This matter had already been delayed for a long time. If they let Count continue to hold back, it would not be a good thing. Under the cover of a pitch-black umbrella, Han Dong went straight to the World Management Office in the middle of the Black Tower. By paying a certain amount of points, he could request the other party to open the world portal to Dawn of Terror. Count, do you need me to get you a physical body? As soon as he finished speaking, a single drop of blood seeped out from the pores on his arm and fell to the ground. In a short period of time, a humanoid Count was constructed. The cone-shaped eye protector that was originally worn on his face had now turned into a necklace on his body. This Count's understanding of blood has reached a whole new level. I can easily transform blood into a body. What I need a body for. Besides, even if I need a fleshly body, once I reach the Dawn of Terror, the underworld god will create one for me. With Han Dong as the main body, the connection between the two was cut off as much as possible. Next, Count would embark on a journey that belonged to him alone. Once he broke through to the mythical level in the Dawn of Terror, Count would embark on a new journey of the holy level and search for the true origin of the Holy Sword alone. Of course, the underworld god may also arrange for some companions to go together. Blood Oath's master, Ragorian's underworld blood skull, damaged, was naturally worn by Count. Perhaps when he broke through, it was possible to completely repair this damaged equipment. Buzz, a gate of destiny filled with a scarlet luster, had opened. Count deliberately stopped in front of the gate when he was the last step away. The source of the sacred blood should not be so easy to find. This Count should be away for a long time this time. Don't die. This body of yours, this Count, is very greedy. If you die and waste your body, you might as well give it to me. Han Dong just smiled this time. He pressed 2 fingers against his temple and flicked them forward. Good luck, Count. The Count also revealed a smile that was close to madness, but also hid a happy smile as he stepped into it. The moment the portal closed, Han Dong's smile immediately changed into a very indifferent expression. I finally sent this guy away. I hope he can obtain a certain amount of authority and benefits from the Dawn of Terror when he breaks through to the mythical level. In the future, it is very likely that he will rely on Count's network to obtain assistance from the Dawn of Terror. It would be best if he could bring back the corpse of the origin of the sacred blood for me. With this matter settled, Han Dong no longer thought about it and focused all his attention on the remaining matters. In addition, the matter of Han Dong being Mr. M's inheritor seemed to have been secretly spread in the middle layer. So much so that Han Dong would receive a certain amount of preferential treatment when he worked here. All kinds of service were almost maxed out. Employee Han Dong, is there anything else I can help you with? By the way, I have 3 servants. I sent them to the trial about a year ago. Can you help me check the specific situation? Please wait a moment. The middle layer's efficiency was very high. In less than a few seconds, the detailed information was obtained through the senior authority. We've obtained the relevant information. Your 3 servants are located in the sub-super world, Special, Clive Barker's Jericho. As special agents of the Supernatural Defense Bureau, they're currently exploring the ancient castle in Palestine. They are currently in a special situation and cannot be summoned back or actively intervened. When the situation is over, we will notify you immediately. Special world? The staff member explained patiently. Clive Barker's Jericho was originally a small world derived from the infernal entries. However, in just a few decades of development, the world's total energy value was comparable to a large world. It has even reached the standard of a sub-super world. Contrary to common sense, apart from the Palestine Castle area, the development of the other areas of the world did not change much. In other words, the changes in world energy all came from this area. After we verified this situation, we labeled it as special. At the same time, we also sent a large number of research teams to investigate it. The mortality rate is as high as 83%. The individuals who can return alive will undergo a great transformation. If your servants can survive in the end, they will definitely achieve the effect you want. Okay, the staff member series of explanations made Han Dong feel a little tempted. If he had time, he really wanted to spend some points on a directional adventure to Jericho, a special world derived from Hell's Entry. The danger is concentrated in a small area, which is somewhat similar to Dry Town. This is very much in line with Toga's setting. Even if the difficulty is really high, as long as Togu is there, they should be able to survive. I hope I can achieve the results I want in the end. When he thought of this, a friendly and peaceful town appeared in Han Dong's mind. Several of Han Dong's shareholding worlds also needed to be dealt with. Among them, the most important one, Dry Town, had completed its upgrade. It maintained the size of small town and became a sub-super world. Sally, come with me to a special town for a stroll. I'll introduce you to my friends. Okay. Chapter 1780. Before entering Dry Town, Han Dong had specifically looked up the definition of a special world. The Black Tower's management of the world could be said to be quite comprehensive. The middle layer had a building called the Archive. Its size, number of employees, and other comprehensive parameters could be ranked third in the middle layer. All the civil officials worked in the Archive. In addition to being responsible for collecting and organizing various world information, one of their most important jobs was to compile and update the world history. The world history was not a book. After all, its content was tens of billions of words. It was not something that could be contained in a book. The archive itself was a special library where one could read the summary information of thousands of worlds. According to the civil officials' integration of world information, it was easy to find that most worlds followed a set of fixed growth systems. This included the establishment of a universe's rules, the construction of life's fundamental model, and the development curve from small to large. However, for the millions and hundreds of millions of worlds, there would always be some special cases that did not develop according to the norm. Therefore, Black Tower selected these special cases and labeled them as special. Among them, the most special ones that Black Tower valued the most and whose world parameters were much higher than the average were some worlds whose territorial specifications were fixed from the moment the world was born. No matter how these worlds grew, their specifications were always maintained at a fixed value. All resources and essence were used to strengthen the fixed area. Even the life forms living in these worlds could grow differently and even evolve a unique growth path. Han Dong had come into contact with so far, the Ladybug Foundation, a single company that was recruited by Black Tower as the world's creation department. Every year, it would receive a large amount of funds and various generous resources from Black Tower. The internal employees also had a unique development system of Ladybug. They were born with a unique talent for creation and construction. Clive Barker's Jericho, the world that Togu, Chun-Li, and Nico went to, and the most representative world, Dry Town. Moreover, Dry Town was not only small in size, but it also had a unique development and recruitment system. All of this was closely related to the mayor. Even if Han Dong, as a shareholder, wanted to see the information of Dry Town, he had to go through a series of reviews. Among them, the information about the mayor was not even available. As for the mayor's background, Han Dong still didn't know. Dry Town can be said to be founded by the mayor. It's not just because of the special specifications. The numbered residents of Dry Town were not native beings, but top talents recruited by the mayor from various worlds. As long as they were valued by the mayor, they would be recruited without exception. It was unknown what methods the mayor had used, nor was it known why he had chosen to recruit talent from the outside instead of developing local life forms. This time, perhaps he could try to ask the mayor about it. If C really goes out of control, Dry Town will definitely be affected as well. If the situation is worse than expected, I'll have to unite all the shareholding worlds under me and even find a way to merge them into World S01. When Han Dong, as a shareholder, submitted the application to go to Dry Town, the efficiency of this place suddenly dropped. There was no response for a long time. Finally, after waiting for almost 2 hours, a supervisor who was dressed differently came forward to explain the matter. I'm really sorry. As Dry Town has been listed as a secret project by us and is in the construction stage of a sub-super world. Although you're a shareholder, we also need to conduct a comprehensive evaluation and get the mayor's approval. We just received a reply from the mayor that we can take you there. However, we'll need to use a special teleportation device. Han Dong's eyes changed slightly. He noticed that the supervisor's wording was actually addressed as the mayor instead of the node holder. This was very strange. What special teleportation device? Can't the gate of destiny go through? You can go through. However, the town is currently undergoing a comprehensive construction, including every core situation in a special state. If you go through the gate of destiny directly, it might affect them. The special passage will allow you to go directly to a stable area that won't affect the world. Understood, sorry, let's go. The special teleportation door was stabilized by a large number of metal rings. It could accurately teleport individuals to a designated area of no more than 5 meters. Buzz. In the blink of an eye, Han Dong had landed in the front yard of the town hall. There was an aura in the air that Han Dong was familiar yet unfamiliar with. The dark sky was covered with deep red lines that looked like cracks. The town seemed to be wrapped in some kind of shell. Not only that, every building in the town, whether it was a regular residence, the Demon Club, the Central Hospital, or the main building of the town hall behind Han Dong, they were all wrapped in a layer of living flesh membrane. The surface of the flesh membrane lit up with green light stripes intermittently, and the whole thing wriggled like a heart. Han Dong tried to peek at the nearest town hall building with the true demon eye. He found that the inside of the building wrapped in the flesh membrane was connected to a large number of flesh-shaped lines. Each line was constantly transporting demonic energy and gathered in the council hall to form a demon fetus. The individual that grew in the demon fetus was number 2, the clerk, Ferna. The rest of the buildings were the same. There was a demon fetus structure inside. The residents were all being nurtured inside. This is the dry town that's under construction and evolving. The residents and buildings are evolving at the same time, and it's relying on a special system. Is this the mayor's ability? Sally smelled a dangerous aura and stuck close to Han Dong the whole time. She was curious. Han Dong approached the town hall. The flesh membrane also split open a narrow passage, allowing Han Dong to go to the deepest area along the internal passage. When he came to the mayor's office, Sally's instincts even made her sheep's hooves tremble. If Han Dong wasn't here, she would definitely run away immediately. The farther away she was from here, the better. Creak! The office door was pushed open. Han Dong seemed to have stepped into a forest demon realm. In the forest filled with black fog, the ground was covered with demon eggs of different sizes and emitting green light. And in the center of the forest, there was a simple office chair. This chair faintly exuded the aura of a king. The mayor, who had a slender figure and a suit collar exuded a thick black aura, was sitting on it with his face covered. Seeing such a strange scene, Han Dong quickly shook his head and pulled his thoughts back to reality. He returned to the normal office scene. The mayor had already stopped what he was doing and was sitting behind his desk waiting for Han Dong's arrival. Nicholas, long time no see. You actually brought the hybrid demon S01 here. Do you have something important to tell me? Chapter 1781. This time, the mayor gave Han Dong a feeling of mystery and a very strange sense of power. When he first stepped into the office, he saw the forest, the demon fetus illusion room, and the office chair in the forest. Han Dong was basically sure that the office chair was the visual representation of the mayor's throne. It was Han Dong's first time seeing such a simple throne. At the same time, there was also a sense of strangeness and strangeness. Even though Han Dong knew very well that he had a friendly relationship with the mayor, he still felt creepy. At the same time, the lightlessness of the past was still there. Although the light from a wall lamp illuminated the office, the mayor's position was always dark. Nicholas, long time no see. You actually brought the hybrid demon S01 with you. Do you have something important to tell me? Sally and I just did something in the Black Tower, and she had nowhere to go, so we came together. Don't worry, Mayor. Sally's control of pollution is very high, and it won't affect the development of the town. This time, I'm mainly here to see the situation of the town and also to report my experience in BBC to the mayor. I think this matter needs to be discussed. BBC. When hearing these acronyms, the mayor's fingers tapped lightly on the table, as if he knew something. What did you go through inside? At this time, it seems that BBC has been completely sealed off, but you can still go in. I wanted to go in and take a look, so, with the permission of Director Charles, I went in for a tour. Han Dong explained the general situation, and, at the same time, mentioned the inevitability of total loss of control and the problem of time. The mayor also tapped his fingers regularly on the table and added, well, I also have information on this matter, and it's estimated that BBC will completely lose control, and it won't take more than 10 years, or even less. I didn't expect you to get such direct information. Yes, this matter does need to be taken seriously. Once out of control, these guys probably won't directly clash with the Black Tower. They may use some out-of-control means that even the Black Tower doesn't know about to evacuate first, and then erode the thousands of worlds connected to the Black Tower. It's very likely that Dry Town will become one of the targets. Seeing that the mayor also had a clear understanding, Han Dong immediately asked, since Dry Town is in danger, has the mayor ever considered bringing Dry Town into World S01? I can guarantee that I will find a world area within S01 that is not affected by the contamination. But when Han Dong mentioned this point, the tapping of his fingers stopped abruptly. Nicholas, I have my own plans for this. Moreover, I've already decided on the development path and final destination of Dry Town a long time ago. I've been preparing for this all these years. After Dry Town completes the advancement of the sub-super world, it will directly merge into the Black Tower world. Merge into the Black Tower. Han Dong remembered that before he went to Dry Town, the head of the World Work Department said that the Black Tower had listed Dry Town as a secret project. At this time, Han Dong had some guesses about the mayor's identity. It was even possible that Dry Town had established a connection with the Black Tower a long time ago, and the mayor himself had a deep relationship with the Black Tower. Thinking of this, Han Dong couldn't suppress the curiosity in his heart. "Mayor, what is your identity?" Tap, tap, tap. The mayor's fingers started tapping regularly again. "It doesn't matter if I tell you directly now, but before I officially ascend to the throne, this matter must be kept a secret between us." Speaking of this, the bookshelf in the office moved to the side, revealing a secret door that Han Dong didn't know about. "Sally, wait here." "Got it." Sally was still very obedient. Other than being a little wary of the mayor, she maintained the noble goat's appearance, covered by a black veil the whole time. Black iron door, lightless stairs. Following the mayor all the way down, it was as if they were getting closer to the world center of Dry Town. They could even hear the sound of heartbeats coming from below. World core? It actually looks like this. The world cores that Han Dong had seen before were all multifaceted crystals, symbolizing the integrity and rules of the world. Deep in the catacombs, what appeared in Han Dong's eyes was a world core in the shape of a demon fetus. Fleshy threads connected from the surface of the fetus to the surface, maintaining the integrity of Dry Town. Dry Town and I complement each other. When I was born, the fetus evolved into a miniature world for me to live in. I was the only one in this world, and it wouldn't give birth to any life of its own accord. Until one day, the Black Tower discovered the existence of this world and specially sent people to negotiate with me. Since their attitude was good, I also considered my own development and chose to establish a world connection. From that moment on, I also had the qualifications to recruit creatures from the lower world. I officially named this place Dry Town and entered the recruitment and construction phase of the town. Complementing each other, Han Dong thought that he was already very special, but he didn't expect the mayor to be even more special. Currently, in Han Dong's knowledge, the only one who complemented the world when it was born was the supreme existence in the chaos, the origin of all the mantis demons, a powerful existence that couldn't be touched at all. The mayor continued, "The development of the town is inseparable from the townspeople. Therefore, I need to spend a lot of time every day to browse the world below Dry Town and screen out talents whose potential, compatibility, and character are compatible with Dry Town. However, the requirements were set too high in the beginning, and I basically couldn't recruit anyone. Later, I slowly lowered the standards and set up an additional screening mechanism in the town. Those who don't meet the standards in the town's life will also be eliminated. As the quality of the townspeople continued to increase, Dry Town as a whole tended to stabilize. It was about the time when Nicholas became one of the 10 demons. I pushed the development of the town to the next step and began to comprehensively cultivate the demon fetus and develop the world. Except for you and Togu, who was taken away, the townspeople all have a growth path derived from the demon fetus. This is my ability, and it won't affect their essence. It can allow them to fully maintain their individuality and independence. I guarantee that they can grow together with the town." The mayor reached out and stroked the world core in the shape of the demon fetus and continued, "Since Nicholas, you're already the successor of... I can also tell you about my other identity. I am known as the ex facto in the Black Tower. There hasn't been a qualified holder of the original letter D devil since 1,000 years ago. Due to the extremely high danger of this letter, the Black Tower has been developing and looking for individuals who can control it, but there has been no progress. Not long after they established a relationship with Dry Town, the higher-ups found that I was more suitable in all aspects and made a special trip to explain this to me. Just a year ago, after I went to the Black Tower and passed a series of tests, this matter was completely finalized. When Dry Town becomes a sub-super world, I will also officially go to the higher-ups between Primordial to try to obtain the authority to hold this. When he heard this, Han Dong was so shocked that he couldn't speak. Although he guessed that a talent like the mayor would inevitably be used by the Black Tower, he didn't expect it to be directly related to the original letter. When I take over, I naturally can't be a commander without an army. And I don't trust the subordinates or various auxiliary staff directly arranged by the Black Tower. The establishment of the 10 Demons mechanism is precisely for this point. At that time, they will be my most loyal and reliable subordinates. If I die one day, one of them will take over Dry Town and accept the letter. Chapter 1782. Black Tower, World Management Department, Buzz. Han Dong and Sally were teleported back. His shocked expression had basically faded and turned into a kind of joy from the bottom of his heart. Han Dong had completely accepted the mayor's true identity. I didn't expect the mayor's origin to be so special. No wonder I, as the second shareholder of Dry Town, couldn't find any information about the mayor. His personal documents were labeled as top secret by the Black Tower. This is also reasonable. The self and the world complement each other. The Black Tower must know the horror of this better than I do. That's why they treated the mayor friendly as soon as they met and offered very high cooperation conditions to establish a relationship with Dry Town first. Soon after the high-level verification of the mayor's nature, he was determined to be a given. If you really want to compare the mayor with Green's father, the biggest difference between the two may be the growth time. The mayor has just started. When he gets the DS ownership and continues to develop, he will definitely become a higher existence. I estimate that Dry Town will advance to a sub-super world this year. The mayor will officially go to the between Primordial to obtain the D's ownership. F***CK, how do my networks suddenly expand? First, I met Boss Francis in the club, and then I used the visit to BC to establish a good relationship with Director Charles. As soon as I came out, I found out that the mayor was actually a given. If this continues, I might be able to establish a good relationship with half of the Supreme Will. I hope everything will go smoothly in the subsequent meetings. Han Dong looked up, and the true magic, I directly penetrated the structure of the building, trying to drill through the middle area. Soon, it was completely blocked by a forbidden energy. With his current level, it was not enough to spy on the upper level. Thinking about how he was about to follow Mr. M to the completely unknown upper level of the Black Tower to participate in a meeting about the Supreme Will, Han Dong was still a little excited. Since I haven't received Mr. M's notice yet, I'll continue to go to the other worlds to take a look. After all, as a shareholder, although I'm not in charge, I still have to go through the motions. In addition, I have to find a way to ensure their safety during the out-of-control period and try to pull them all to World S01. In addition to Dry Town, Han Dong also owns shares in other worlds. Large-scale world, The Matrix. Node holder, Robot Goldie, already fused with The Matrix. Large-scale world, Prometheus. Node holder, Professor Morgan Subsuper World, Corpse Kingdom. Node holder, Tomb Lord. Let's go to Little Yellow first. I haven't been to London since the end of the game. I don't know how well this engineering robot, made by Herbalin, managed the world after it merged with its mother. After all, it's a high-tech world. Compared to other worlds, it's still somewhat different. 1. Han Dong was teleported to a huge room built by countless monitors, the center of the mother world. The source program that Little Yellow had turned into appeared as a yellow-haired young man, who was also known as the designer. However, instead of his usual mysterious identity as a designer, he immediately began to dance with joy. Mr. Nicholas, you've finally come. Goldie, I have something to discuss with you. Han Dong briefly described what had happened. Goldie directly made an okay gesture and even patted his chest to guarantee it. This is too simple. The Matrix is completely different from Pandora. I can mechanize the world within a year and package it up. Let me calculate. Goldie's brain was instantly burned red, and there was even white smoke coming out. In theory, I can compress the world into a chip size which is about this size. Goldie even deliberately used his fingers to measure the size. The overall combat power will also be reduced accordingly. If you want to restore it, you will need to provide a lot of material support. Very good. As for the materials, you don't have to worry. Just do it. Once I confirm that the uncontrollable body in the Black Tower has leaked out and begins to invade the world group, I will come and pick you up immediately. Thank you, Master. Han Dong didn't inspect the Matrix too much. After all, he didn't know much about software and mechanical science. The next world was Prometheus. It had been almost half a year since he handed over the ownership to Professor Morgan. However, when Han Dong completed the world teleportation, he wondered if he had come to the wrong place. His original impression of God's capital had completely changed. The surface had been razed to the ground and changed into an underground city. This was indeed very Morgan style. However, Han Dong's face was filled with shock as he continued to walk down the tunnel. F***CK. What kind of efficiency is this? In just half a year, Morgan has transformed the planet where God's capital is located into a living planet and integrated the characteristics of the living creatures here. The cultivation and reproduction process of the xenomorphs has risen to a whole new level. Moreover, Morgan has combined some of the characteristics of the hybrid demons with the xenomorphs. He is trying to create a new species. This is too powerful. When he saw Professor Morgan, Dr. Swollen also took the initiative to appear. He stuck his brain to the ground and called him teacher. You're making rapid progress. It seems that you can already take over the project I left behind. Why are you looking for me? I'm very busy. Don't bother me with technical problems. Professor Morgan, there's another very important matter I want to discuss with you. When Han Dong finished explaining, Morgan stopped what he was doing and frowned. Such a powerful and regulated Black Tower actually had such a thing happen? Are you telling me to bring this world back to S01 to take refuge? That's right. If things get out of hand and threaten the foundation of the Black Tower, this is the only way. If they overestimate themselves and continue to invade S01. Professor Morgan, you might be able to use this opportunity to kill these uncontrollable creatures and make up for your mistakes. You might even get a new batch of uncontrollable experimental creatures that you've never seen before. Make up for my mistakes? No. I don't have any desire to go back right now. This place is too great. I can still go to the Black Tower to buy research materials at any time. I can even go to different worlds to take samples. However, I'm very interested in the uncontrollable experimental creatures that you mentioned. If that really happens, I will temporarily transfer the world over. You have to arrange a place for me to stay. Don't let those guys from University of Mishu come looking for trouble again. Don't worry, I can guarantee your safety. Since things were settled and Morgan didn't have time, Han Dong took a quick look at the changes in God's capital before heading to the next world. Corpse Kingdom Tomb, Clang, a familiar world transfer method. Opening the coffin, Han Dong came out from the coffin filled with the stench of corpses. Only this time, he had his own body and not a zombie's body. In the wilderness, crows cawed. There were over 100,000 tombs scattered all over the place. Black fog formed from death aura filled the wilderness. Every once in a while, zombies would come back to life and sit up from their coffins. Not too far away, the ringing of soul-summoning bells could be heard from villages and towns, attracting the zombies to them. As Han Dong looked around, he couldn't see the end of the world. But he could faintly see a corpse kingdom at the center of the world, the source of death aura. What a big world. The system is complete as well. Let's follow these zombies and see for ourselves. Chapter 1783. The brand new Corpse Kingdom is basically a continuation and expansion of the previous system, becoming more like some cultivation novels. But the zombies here are cultivators. When Han Dong arrived at the nearby village, he found that the zombies who had already gained intelligence were managing the village. The village chief was a black zombie who dragged his ribs several meters long and easily jumped between the houses. The newly unearthed zombies nearby would gather here and each of them had the qualification to undergo a wisdom verification. The zombies would line up under the guidance of the soul-summoning bell. They would stay in front of a bead condensed from death aura for 5 minutes. This bead would not only induce them to complete the wisdom verification, but it would also undergo a qualification test. It was divided into 4 levels: human, ghost, earth, and heaven. The individuals who were verified as heaven would be personally picked up by the dragon boat sent by the imperial court to the corpse kingdom. However, this kind of innate verification was not necessarily accurate. The zombies could also accumulate individual reputation through self-cultivation, participating in various martial arts competitions in various counties, or carrying out some difficult tasks. Or they could join the Corpse Mountain sect and undergo various experiences. As long as the deeds recognized by the imperial court were recorded, they would be allowed to go to the corpse kingdom if they reached a certain standard. When he arrived at the village, a dragon boat happened to pass by. Han Dong had no intention of deliberately hiding his identity and directly floated towards the dragon boat. Whether it was the zombies in the village or the imperial court officials on the dragon boat, when they saw this floating posture, they all cried out in surprise and knelt down. Floating corpse internal sutra. Could this be Mr. Han who helped us get rid of the shackles of the world? Just as Han Dong was about to take the dragon boat to the corpse kingdom, on the horizon, in the direction of the corpse kingdom, the rich death aura gathered into a black dragon and attacked directly with the pressure of the world. When the dragon arrived at the top of the village, all the aura gathered at the dragon's head, condensing into a perfect body wearing a black and gold dragon robe and landing heavily. Not to mention the villagers. Even the officials on the dragon boat had never seen the true appearance of the Tomb Lord. When they saw this scene and the true body of the Tomb Lord, their stiff bodies creaked and groaned. Due to the appearance of the Tomb Lord, the concentration of death aura soared. The zombies that had just been unearthed instantly completed the wisdom verification and instinctively knelt on the ground. Brother Han, long time no see. You've improved very quickly. Is this your wife? I can feel a strong urge to give birth and a polluting substance similar to death aura in her body. Sally did not understand Chinese. However, he was rather wary of the zombie that had suddenly appeared in front of him, so he could only hide behind Han Dong. Sally is my good friend. She followed me to the Black Tower to deal with some matters. This time, I came to see you because I have something important to discuss. It's about the stability of the world. Let's talk as we walk. I haven't been out for a long time. In front of Han Dong, the Tomb Lord did not put on the airs of a king. In his eyes, Han Dong was the savior of the corpse kingdom and also an individual from the outside world. Moreover, his potential was definitely not lower than his. After hearing that the Black Tower might go out of control and suggesting to merge the corpse kingdom into a 01, the Tomb Lord did not immediately agree. Give me some time to consider. This is a matter of great importance. Our corpse nation has just been rebuilt. If we move in a short period of time, the nation's fate will be affected. I'll be heading to Mount Moon Goddess in the near future to ask for Mister's opinion. Once I've made a decision, I'll send you a message through the Black Tower. All right. Han Dong nodded. After all, the nature of the corpse kingdom was also very different compared to other worlds. The Tomb Lord was also a berserker in essence, and the death aura released by him had reached the standard of berserker. However, because of Mr. M's intervention, things became different. Whether it was the corpse kingdom or the Tomb Lord, they were both labeled as special by the Black Tower. If the Tomb Lord and his zombies wanted to enter the Black Tower, they had to undergo a very comprehensive inspection and had to be monitored all day. They could only move in a limited area. If the BC completely went out of control and invaded the myriad worlds, the corpse kingdom that was under Mr. M's attention should be protected immediately. Han Dong did not waste too much time. After a few drinks with the Tomb Lord, he left with Sally. Even when they returned to the Black Tower area, Sally still had lingering fears. Nicholas, that man is so strong. Overall, he's almost equivalent to an old, middle-level king. I've never seen the same kind of king-level aura released by him. I seem to have seen the black aura in his body in your manner before. You seem to have used it to strengthen ghouls? Yes. The Tomb Lord is also a berserker in essence. The death aura he produces is quite a bug-like substance. I took some back and applied it to ghouls. The effect is very good. If we can draw the Tomb Lord to World S01, the overall strength of the world will also increase. Perhaps the death aura can also be used for the defense and repair of some special areas. Let's see what he decides. World travel ended there. Han Dong spent less than a day in total, which could be said to be very efficient. At the same time, he further proved that being a shareholder was much more comfortable than being a boss. Sally's eyes were also glowing. She had never seen such a diverse world and even wanted to travel to different worlds with Han Dong. Fight Club. As a newcomer, Grimm had to go through the extremely difficult 18 challenges that only a few members of the main club could pass. In the 16th match, his body had reached its absolute limit. Even though Grimm's crazy will was still there, his body disintegrated on the spot when Grimm wanted to make a move. Due to the characteristics of his body, Grimm did not need to be sent to the hospital. When his body completely disintegrated, it turned into an endless abyss where it was. The members were also quite impressed by Grimm's craziness. Multiple enchantments were set up at the entrance of the abyss to ensure that no one would disturb him during his self-incubation and rest. In the abyss, the special area responsible for the incubation of the body was carrying out the most efficient work. Since the fight did not allow the use of abilities, Grimm's abyssal characteristics could be said to be very restrictive. He had to create a chaotic body that could support him. And so, this time, he directly used the Chaos Origin Stone. Moreover, Grimm could clearly feel that. As the fight progressed, his purity was increasing. Every punch, whether it hit the opponent or was hit, the excess impurities in the body were removed. These are not only impurities in the body, but also impurities in the technique, soul, and spirit. Grimm could feel that he was becoming stronger. In addition to the fight that could be seen with the naked eye, each of Grimm's punches felt like he was hitting a rock, bombarding the indestructible chaos stones, using his fist to create a chaos throne that belonged to him. When Han Dong rushed back to the club, he only stood at the entrance of the cave and did not go down to disturb Grimm, who was resting. The first time he came here, he carried out the 18 trials to the 16th round. I have never seen this since I joined the club. Your friend is too exaggerated. Headless also stood at the side and gave a very high evaluation. Brother Headless, I'll have to trouble you to take care of things here. Sally, who was beside him, also said at this time, I'll stay here too. Maybe I can get immersed in enlightenment and improvement like Grimm. Next, Nicholas, I probably can't enter the area you're going to. Okay, Mr. M had already sent a message. In 15 minutes, meet at the entrance of the Bayan Hotel. Your successor information has been reviewed and will follow me to the upper zone to participate in an important meeting of the Supreme Will. Be prepared. You may need to make a short speech during the meeting. The specific content will be determined according to the meeting. Chapter 1784. The upper zone was also known as the top of the tower. The middle zone was where the core buildings of the various departments of the Black Tower were located. The upper zone was where the highest authority of the Black Tower was located. Anything involving high authority would require the permission of the top of the tower before it could be carried out. Under normal circumstances, relevant personnel were not allowed to go to the top of the tower. Moreover, there was no elevator between the bottom and middle zones. The Black Tower did not have a single passageway to the upper zone. Most people did not know how to go to the upper zone. Apart from the members of the highest will and a few exceptions, such as the mayor or candidates like Han Dong, basically nobody could go to the top of the tower. In addition, there were various confidentiality requirements. About 99% of the individuals in the Black Tower did not know what the top of the tower looked like. Among the information Han Dong had received about the Black Tower, apart from the highest will, there was no other building or organization related to the upper zone. Hence, he was very curious about what the upper zone looked like. As soon as he received the message, he rushed to the Permitha Hotel's front door. Mr. M, who was dressed in a white suit, was already standing at the door, staring at his watch. "Nicholas, why are you so slow? We still have to do a series of checks before the meeting to ensure that you can move around on the top of the tower. I was delayed at the club for a while. Francis is looking for you." "No, it's just that my hybrid demon friends need to settle down a little. They shouldn't be able to go to the upper zone, right?" "Of course not. The top of the tower has very strict security." "Senior, how do we go up? I heard that there isn't any passageway to the upper zone." "That's right. This is how the upper zone is designed. If you want to go to the upper zone, you have to find a way. No matter what method you use, as long as you can touch the bottom of the upper zone, you'll be able to teleport." "I can fly." "Of course, as long as you can fly up. Do you want to try?" "Let's not waste time. I estimate that once we reach a certain height, a no-fly barrier will activate. There might even be a barrier I've never seen before." "Senior, you should have a more stable way to go to the upper zone, right?" Follow me." As usual, they took a boat to the Permitha Hotel. However, this time they did not go to the rooms. Instead, they took the elevator to the upper zone. A waiter whose body was equivalent to the door stood at the end of the passage. When he saw Mr. M, he immediately unbuttoned his suit, revealing a separate staircase leading to the hotel's rooftop. The Other Shore Hotel's height ranked among the top 10 in the middle layer, and it allowed one to view 90% of the city's scenery. However, when Sherfone looked up from the top of a building that was nearly 1,000 meters tall, he still couldn't see the middle layer's top. At this moment, Mr. M's hands secreted modeling fluid at the same time, and a white ladder was constructed. The ladder was only 5 meters tall, but it would continue to be constructed as the individual climbed up until it reached the top. Climbing the ladder? Han Dong did not expect it to be such a primitive method. "This is my most common method. Since I was used to it from the beginning, I haven't changed it. When I was chosen as M's successor, no one guided me. I tried to create a staircase and failed hundreds of times before I reached the top. There's not much time left. Let's go." In the later stages of the climb, it might be more strenuous, so you have to pay attention to your physical condition. "All right, climb the ladder and begin." As time passed, Han Dong had unknowingly climbed to a height of nearly 10,000 meters. When he shifted his vision to the bottom, he could not even see the middle layer clearly. A steady stream of pressure constantly assaulted him. The closer he got to the top, the greater the pressure. This feeling was somewhat similar to when Han Dong climbed Mount Moon Goddess in Corpse Country. Han Dong even suspected that Mr. M was inspired by this place to build Mount Moon Goddess to test the younger generation. However, as a faceless person, Han Dong's adaptability was beyond imagination. Coupled with the floating effect brought about by the floating corpse internal sutra and the support of the staircase created by Mr. M, he successfully approached the top in one go. When he could barely see the top of the tower, he was already hundreds of thousands of meters away from the middle layer. Pieces of black metal covered in silver lines combined in a floating manner to form the top, which was also the foundation of the top area of the tower. When Han Dong placed his palm on the metal surface, his vision immediately flipped, and in the next second, he was already standing at the top of the tower. Empty, silent, and spacious. Unlike the middle layer, there was no building at the top of the tower. The whole thing was a flat surface. A holographic cover, with a zoom function, was used to close the top. It could clearly spy on the various formations in the universe, and even zoom tens of thousands of times to observe the surface conditions of a nearby planet. However, this holographic dome that could easily spy on galaxies was nothing special. It did not attract Han Dong at all. When Han Dong arrived at the top of the tower, his gaze had already been drawn away by another scene. This is the Black Tower world. That's right. Standing at the highest point in the center of the world, one could see the entire world. The Black Tower was built on the surface of a super-huge polyhedral planet that exceeded the conventional laws of physics. Standing here, one could see the overall appearance of this planet. The biological diversity on this planet was probably thousands of times that of Earth. Due to the polyhedral geometric structure, Each side contained a large civilization or an organization affiliated with the Black Tower. For example, the Fight Club General Hospital was located in a small flat area nearby. Because the hospital was completely enclosed, Han Dong was only hospitalized every time he went there. Once he was discharged, he would be sent back. He had never seen the real appearance of the Black Tower world. Today was the first time he saw it. Moreover, at first glance, one could directly spy on the overall appearance of the world. Is this the Black Tower world? What a perfect world system. Mr. M was brimming with pride under the mask. It seemed that the construction of the planet had something to do with him. At the same time, he was proud that he could be one of the top managers of this world. The Black Tower world, also known as the Source world. The world number is S00. It is based on the most stable framework and the earliest central world built. S00 Source world. I see. The many doubts that had accumulated in Han Dong's heart were instantly solved. Come with me. Before participating in the meeting, E will conduct an in-depth test for you. Just relax. I've informed him in advance. He won't make things difficult for you. It was unknown when a middle-aged man with black hair combed into a buzz cut and wearing a white coat was standing not far away. He wore an X emblem on his left chest. He wore a tick emblem on his right chest. The bearer of the original letter E, Edgar Albalita, symbolized the word examine. Chapter 1785. Excuse me, what kind of test do you need? Since he didn't see any buildings at the top of the tower, Han Dong guessed that there would be a psychological test similar to the one in BC. Just as Han Dong asked the question, Mr. Edgar, who held the letter E, popped out a space cube between his fingers and slowly floated towards Han Dong. The latter didn't back down, but took the initiative to let the cube come into contact with his body. Buzz! In the blink of an eye, Han Dong was teleported to a pure white room, very similar to the Destiny calculation room. Edgar, who looked like a government official, sat in the middle with a serious face. On the white square table in front of him was Han Dong's information. He would directly compare the results of the following test with the original information to ensure accuracy and authenticity. Test 1, Destiny Effect. Please sit on the activation chair. I need to verify whether your destiny path is normal. The so-called activation chair was the chair used to distribute destiny points when Han Dong first came into contact with destiny. It looked like a cold iron chair. When Han Dong sat on it, a syringe was directly inserted into his cervical vertebra, and multiple wires were connected under his skin. The test began. Edgar could clearly see Han Dong's destiny path through the wires. Through the hand-drawn method, he wrote and drew Han Dong's destiny path on the information paper. Reading the information before the broken seed went smoothly, but when it came to the talent tree, it began to show signs of abnormalities. The substance extracted from the syringe contained a filthy gray color. Although Edgar knew beforehand that Han Dong came from S01, he didn't expect the gray matter extracted from his body to be a bit difficult for him to process, so the test results were not particularly perfect. In the end, he barely managed to draw Han Dong's talent tree form, accurately marking the corresponding effect of each section of the talent. Beyond the talent tree was the mythical puzzle in the depths. When the puzzle's information flowed out, Edgar's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. Han Dong had a total of 3 pieces of the puzzle, and they were all of the highest quality, legendary. Although there were similar existences in the history of the Black Tower, there were definitely only a handful of them. Furthermore, he could vaguely see the embryonic form of the throne hidden at the bottom of the abyss. Using a special red pen, he filled in the keyword New King in one of the columns. Edgar said calmly, "That's enough. There's nothing unusual about your destiny. Next, we need to test your danger level, and the result will determine whether you're qualified to participate in the meeting of the Supreme Will." Danger? As soon as he finished speaking, a strange substance was injected into Han Dong's cervical spine by the syringe and flowed throughout his body uncontrollably. Some kind of primitive impulse was activated, and the most brutal side in the depths of his soul was squeezed out. For a moment, dozens of gray tentacles fluttering at the back of his head, the camouflage was completely removed. Death, darkness, distortion, madness, and other extremely dangerous auras gushed out. Some black balloons even appeared in the area. What caught Edgar's attention the most was that an alternate dimension portal had opened in his forehead. It seemed that a large number of terrifying creatures were about to be released. This guy is as dangerous as a fake king. Edgar's hands moved, ready to suppress Han Dong at any time. Seeing that the battle was about to break out, even a ghoul's arms stretched out from the portal between Han Dong's forehead. Crack! His cervical spine was fractured. Han Dong's head suddenly dropped. He raised one hand and suddenly covered his face. Between his fingers, bursts of laughter seeped out. Ha ha! Ha! Bursts of strange and terrifying laughter echoed in the test area. Even Edgar felt uncomfortable listening to it. His skin was in an instinctive state of tension. Finally, he plugged his ears with a finger. With the release of laughter, the fierceness in his whole body was slowly erased and suppressed. When Han Dong raised his head again, there was a strange red smile on his face. This scene shocked Edgar greatly. Not to mention the tester with a hybrid demon attribute like Han Dong. Even other testers who had nothing to do with the hybrid demons would show the most primitive fierceness once injected with the primal activator. A situation like this, where he was suppressed without any attack, had not happened in nearly 100 years. The laughter lasted for about 10 minutes, until his throat was broken from laughing. Only then did the primal activator spread throughout Han Dong's body, completely disappear. Edgar first filled in the danger test column with the word safety. But after thinking for a while, he added a note. Note: pay attention to the effects of laughter. The test is complete. You can follow Mentor to participate in the next meeting. At that time, I will send your personal information to every member. During the meeting, they will ask questions based on your situation. Please be prepared. Thank you. Snap! Edgar snapped his fingers. The test space immediately shrank into a transparent square the size of a finger and was absorbed into his body. By the way, where is the meeting? When he climbed to the top of the tower, Han Dong carefully looked around. The whole thing was like a large flat floor. He saw nothing, so naturally, he did not find the meeting place. Look again, you should be able to see it. You weren't qualified just now. At Edgar's reminder, Han Dong looked around the top floor again. Only then did he realize that less than 100 meters away, there was a black conference table made of the same material as the floor. The stone pedestals engraved with the letters 26 were arranged in a circle with equal intervals. Currently, there were already members seated. Mr. M was standing next to his seat, waving at Han Dong as if the meeting would start soon. When Han Dong leaned over, the stone pedestal with the letter M gave birth to an extra seat. It was attached to Han Dong's body and even had a waist and neck support structure, so it was quite comfortable to sit on. The meeting will start in half an hour. You need to at least be prepared to introduce yourself. If someone asks you a question, just answer it normally. Will all the original letter holders come to the meeting? Probably half of them will come. After all, it's not a particularly important meeting, and there are some letters that don't have holders yet. In addition to you, there should be other successors attending the meeting. You can pay a little attention. Those who can be chosen as successors must be the best in the world. You may cross paths in the future. Understood. More and more members arrived, including the club owner, F. Freedom, Francis. The current BC, Control, Charles. And under the recommendation of Mr. M, the two ladies Han Dong met early on, Ideal Thought, Irene, and B. Balance, Miss Bay. Han Dong also noticed Miss Bay, who was quite handsome in black shoes and a long trench coat, seemed to be the host of this meeting. When she came to the meeting area, she deliberately glanced at Han Dong. As for the original letter A holder, he was not present. Time is up. More than half of the members of the Supreme Will are present. This monthly meeting officially begins. Chapter 1786. Monthly Meeting. It was basically a simple summary of the month situation. In the past, only 1/4 of the people were needed for the meeting to be held, but now, due to special circumstances, at least half of the people were needed. Also, the topic of the meeting was containment, and Director Charles had brought enough information. Let the meeting begin. There will be 4 extra observers in this monthly meeting. Their identities are relatively special and are an important part of this meeting. Apart from Han Dong, there were 3 other candidates present. One of them had already met Han Dong's eyes. Let me introduce them one by one. First, the candidate for Power, Strength, Panus, Al Kramer from S01 Wangdu. Mr. Panus, who represented strength, wasn't as strong as imagined on the seat with the letter. In fact, many of the members present looked much stronger than him. His appearance was that of an ordinary blond man, wearing a dark suit that was rather close-fitting. As for the candidates he selected for the meeting, they were very interesting. Wangdu, Megalanri, one of the 3 main human cities in World S01, had a completely opposite concept of development from the Holy City. They relied completely on fate and didn't want to establish any relationship with the hybrid demons. It was because of this stance that they had a close relationship with the Black Tower. There were also a lot of engineers who established relationships with the Black Tower. Al Kramer, who was selected as the candidate for P, was the director of the Mechanics Research Institute in Wangdu. His position was equivalent to the commander of the Holy City. Although he had perfectly concealed his presence, if one stared at him for a long time, they would feel a sense of burden that would continue to grow. Next, the candidate for Thunderbolt, Thunder, Trevini, Xing Ying from S01 Dragon City. On the seat with the letter P, the person who represented Thunder was an old but rather elegant granny. Her clothes were interwoven with lightning, and various lightning-related accessories were worn on various parts of her body. Lightning flowed between her fingers at all times. As for the candidate, she was the current sect master of the Heavenly Thunder sect, Xing Ying from Dragon City. She looked to be in her early 30s and was the youngest sect master of Dragon City. She had a lean and slender figure, and there were some scars that looked like they had been torn by lightning between her beautiful muscles. With short hair and a long sword, he gave off a handsome and fierce feeling. Next up is the candidate for Light Leona, Olivia Christian from the Holy City of S01. The seat printed with the letter Hill burst out with light that illuminated the meeting area. Miss Leona was the origin of the holy light of infinite worlds. She had 12 wings of light on her back, and she was also wearing a set of light armor that was ranked in the top 3 by the Black Tower. It was like the highest symbol of an angel in the world. All impure beings would be suppressed by the light in front of this person. The holy light system in the infinite worlds originated from Miss Leona, and this naturally included the holy light cultists in the Holy City. Regardless of whether it was the Holy Knights, the Church, or some ordinary believers, the deity that they worshipped and the source of the holy light's power was also Leona. As for the candidate he brought with him, there was no need to say anything more. The current commander of the Holy Knights. After the London game ended, Olivia had been in seclusion. Now, she had stepped into the realm of King. She never thought that she would appear here with such an identity. She and Han Dong's eyes met long ago, and both of them were extremely shocked. They never thought that their long-awaited meeting would be in such an important and special occasion. It was also because of the occasion that the 2 of them did not have any consciousness communication. They would talk in detail after the meeting ended. I never thought that Commander Olivia would be one of the candidates for L. However, it makes sense if you think about it carefully. Olivia's uniqueness made her highly valued by the Holy City and the Holy See headquarters when she was young, and she was chosen as the Saintess. No other knight has her affinity with the holy light. At the same time, she also has a special inner world, forbidden doctrine. It played an important role in the London game, and it also saved my life. I never thought that a candidate from Wangdu, Dragon City, and the Holy City would be chosen to participate in this meeting. It seems that this meeting will obviously bring up the matter of special cooperation. Just as Han Dong was thinking about this, Madame Bay's gaze shifted over, and she began to introduce him. The last candidate, world modeling, is Warren Nicholas from World S01. What needs to be noted here is that Nicholas is the only candidate. His personal information has been included in the meeting documents. If you have any questions, you can raise them during the meeting discussion. Only candidate? Many of the individuals with the highest will cast their gazes at Han Dong. The other three candidates also widened their eyes as they stared at Han Dong in disbelief. They stared at this young man who had yet to reach the king level. A candidate and the only candidate were two completely different concepts. Wanting to control and hold the original alphabet was one of the most difficult things in the Black Tower world. Some of the letters were often left vacant for many years before a suitable holder could be found. In history, the Supreme will rarely appear with a full list of candidates. When the holder was in position, they would receive information about the top talents sent by the World Supervisory Bureau every day. If they found that the attributes matched, they would be indirectly contacted or given some kind of long-distance training. Once they passed, they could develop into a candidate. There was no specific limit to the number of candidates. There were often more than 10 candidates for each letter, or even more. The candidates could also enjoy better treatment and privileges in the Black Tower. However, once they failed a certain stage of development, they would be eliminated. And being the only candidate meant that there was no elimination, screening, or competition. In the future, they would definitely come into contact with the corresponding letter. Once they were recognized and accepted by the letter, they would become the new holder. At this moment, a deep and slightly magnetic voice came from the other side of the chair. Han Dong is a high-end talent in my club. Unfortunately, he was a little slow, and Minter beat him to it. Don't be too strict. I have high hopes for this kid. Francis, who had a perfect mix of dark red skin, muscles, and fat, was known as the freest person. He directly put his legs on the conference table and gave a high evaluation on the spot. He further made Han Dong the focus of the meeting. There were already many members who wanted to ask Han Dong some tricky questions during the free discussion. Madame Bay reached out and made a balancing motion, and Francis' legs were forcefully lifted off the table. The meeting begins. First, everyone will report on this month's work. Director Charles's report will be left for last. Just as everyone finished their reports in short and relaxed words, Charles distributed a document printed with the Black Tower Control Headquarters, BC, and made a request. Before we report on this month's BC situation, I have a request. I hope that Mr. Han Dong can be my temporary assistant. The comprehensive tour he conducted a few days ago will allow everyone to have a deeper understanding of the situation at the headquarters. For a moment, all eyes were focused on Han Dong. At the same time, there was another seat beside the seat with the letter C. Director Charles reached out and patted the seat to signal Han Dong to go over. This. Chapter 1787. This was the third time that everyone had focused their attention on him. Han Dong was a little embarrassed. Moreover, Director Charles even openly asked Han Dong to sit in his chair at the meeting. Thinking about it carefully, even if Han Dong sat next to Mr. M, he could still cooperate with Charles to talk about the situation at the HQ. This kind of deliberate invitation. Cooperate in breaking away from the private conversation between the two of them at BC. It was inevitable that Han Dong would feel a little awkward. However, it was up to Mr. M to decide whether to sit or not. After all, he was using Mr. M's name to participate in this meeting. At this time, a magnetic and strong voice came from the other side. Charles, you don't want to steal people, do you? I'll give up on this idea for the time being, since Minter helped me build the Fight Club. If you really want to steal people, I'll have to get involved. Unexpectedly, Director Charles didn't even look at the club owner and said expressionlessly, I've already asked Han Dong if he wanted to be a candidate for the letter. He has already rejected my proposal. This time, I asked him to be my temporary deputy only for the upcoming meeting. Some details that need to be filled in need of him to elaborate. The atmosphere was a little awkward. Even Miss Bay, who was presiding over the meeting, saw this scene for the first time. Especially for someone like Director Charles, who was usually a man of few words, he actually spoke so much today because of an outsider. A rare smile flashed across Miss Bay's serious face. In the end, Minter naturally nodded and agreed to the swap. When Han Dong came to the chair next to Director Charles, the director's voice immediately sounded, "Don't be nervous. I'll explain the general situation. When you need to make relevant additions, just describe what happened during the visit. Explain the key points in detail, especially when it comes to Mr. Teacher." Han Dong nodded and quickly sat down. Director Charles's voice was like a ring structure around the conference table. Outside the conference area, his sound waves couldn't be captured. They were clear, low, and penetrating. First of all, he gave a lot of analytical data. Starting from the shallow to the deep, he carried out an overall analysis. This is the change in the test data this month. In short, the situation at the Black Tower's headquarters continued to worsen. At present, what we can be sure of is that the uncontrollable entity has more than 3 kinds of trump cards to perish together with us. No matter what kind of infiltration method, if we can't kill or completely restrict the committee at the same time in a short period of time, the trump cards will be revealed. The entire Black Tower, or even the entire planet, would be sucked into the subspace rift. My suggestion is still to use the stripping project as the core project. In addition, due to the visit of Han Dong and his companions, the time when the headquarters is completely out of control will be slightly extended for 3 to 6 months. This is good news. Miss Bay, who was next to him, revealed a puzzled look. Lengthening? How did you do it? During Mr. Han Dong's visit, he had a long period of direct interaction with Mr. Teacher's avatar. Under the premise of using special means to avoid preaching, he cooperated with a king-level individual from the Fight Club and killed the 3rd incarnation of his teacher, the Phase Walker. As far as I know, this space avatar is an important avatar for Mr. Teacher's student development, external control, and overall supervision. The death of this avatar is a great loss for Mr. Teacher, and it will hinder their invasion plan to a certain extent. The extension of 3 to 6 months is my estimate. As soon as he said this, everyone's eyes focused on him for the 4th time. Some members of the Supreme will even began to use their abilities to spy on Han Dong, not to see if he was affected by the uncontrollable entity, but to see what was different about this mythical entity. Many people also picked up Han Dong's information and carefully read it. The holders of the alphabet all knew what kind of existence Mr. Teacher was. Although he was not the strongest, uncontrollable entity in the shelter, he was definitely the most troublesome existence. To be able to kill one of the avatars in a head-on confrontation, this was simply too exaggerated. But such words came from Director Charles's mouth, so no one doubted it at all. As long as it was about BBC, Charles had an absolutely strict attitude and would verify any details. Miss Bay asked first. Charles, wasn't BBC completely closed a few weeks ago? Any visa request should be directly rejected, let alone let a young man who has never been in contact with the control headquarters to participate in a full participation. Why did you make the decision to let Han Dong and 2 other personnel have a full visit? Director Charles replied. This was a request from Mentor. In addition, I also considered that Han Dong was the middleman of S01, and the visit could make him more directly understand the seriousness of the current situation. After a strict test, he was allowed to enter. It should be mentioned that Han Dong scored full marks in the test contact with original 3i. Now, Han Dong will talk about his contact with Mr. Teacher and the deep-level situation he saw on the way. The latter naturally took over the speaking rights. Han Dong had experienced such a big scene before. His speech was very natural, and he even showed the whole process of his contact with Mr. Teacher on the table through Black Sand's rehearsal. He also explained in detail how he used the fake brain to deceive the teacher and disguised himself as a student. After this operation, many of the people present also understood why there was a situation where the 3 holders of the primordial alphabet snatched him. Han Dong not only had strength and wisdom, but his psychological quality was incomparable to most people. At the same time, when Han Dong talked about how, under the guidance of his teacher, he saw the Rubik's Cube in the space research area that was connected to the out-of-control world, many of the people present had ugly expressions. Han Dong also tried his best to explain his understanding of the Rubik's Cube. However, there was one thing that Han Dong didn't say. That was the situation where his brain resonated with the Rubik's Cube. Han Dong had his own ideas about this and didn't want to reveal it to anyone. That's the general situation. In the end, we relied on Director Charles's bracelet to help us escape. Mr. Teacher should have a deep impression of me. Once they seize all the authority and evacuate from the Black Tower, they should come to 01 to cause trouble for me. Han Dong's last sentence was quite profound. At the same time, it also smoothly connected the meeting to the next segment. Miss Bei looked at Han Dong with a rather admiring gaze and continued. Next up is the last item of the monthly meeting. We will begin the discussion of the special cooperation of S01. The 4 observers who came to the meeting this time also represent different forces of S01. These 3 represent 3 different human main cities, which are also the S01 node city that is mainly connected to the Black Tower. And Mr. Han Dong will represent the entire hybrid demon force. During the discussion, he will stand from the perspective of the hybrid demons and discuss and provide feedback. The speech ended. Everyone's eyes focused on Han Dong for the 5th time. Representing the hybrid demons and representing the human main cities were 2 different concepts. Everyone present knew very well what the real master of S01 was. However, this time, everyone's gaze was more inclined toward suspicion. The hybrid demons were special existences that could make the entire Black Tower tremble. How could a young man with human characteristics be a representative? Were the suggestions given by the discussion really meaningful? Chapter 1788. Miss Bei started from the perspective of complete balance. She added hybrid demons, past hatred, and low connection to S01. She was willing to provide a large amount of resources, priority, and other conditions to establish a temporary cooperative relationship. However, the specific details of the cooperation would have to be determined after the uncontrollable demons gained control of BBC. In the end, it would be a direct confrontation with the Black Tower. Or would they escape from the Black Tower as individual units? Or would they escape with the entire headquarters? Before the situation was settled, it was not good to make specific countermeasures. However, the Black Tower was preparing a stripping plan. When the uncontrollable demons completely erupted, they would strive to strip the entire headquarters of the control department and throw it into the dimensional rift to minimize the damage to the Black Tower. When the time came, they would slowly think of a way to deal with these uncontrollable demons. However, this plan was only left as a last resort, because once the stripping plan was initiated, it meant that the Black Tower would voluntarily give up all control of BC, and the uncontrollable demons trapped in the deepest part of BC would all be freed. They might even have a way to reverse the stripping and directly clash with the Black Tower. Therefore, as long as they could gain some time, it would be beneficial to the Black Tower. Whether it was the preparation of the tower, the warning to the myriad worlds, or the establishment of an evacuation channel between worlds, it was necessary work. After Ms. Bei described the bargaining chips that the Black Tower was willing to give, it was up to the representatives to speak. First, Director Al Kramer from the Mechanics Research Institute in Wangdu expressed, "We will definitely fully support the Black Tower's work. If necessary, we will transfer all of our core combat power to the Black Tower and cooperate with you to fight against the uncontrollable demons and minimize the losses." Dragon City's Xing Ying also expressed her greatest support. When it was the turn of the Sacred City's representative, Commander Olivia, to speak, she said softly, "Currently, the Sacred City has been completely accepted by the hybrid demons because of the Great Expedition. We have obtained a unique title deed and built a new king-level city that will no longer be contaminated by the hybrid demons. At the same time, the hybrid demons will not affect our development and have no control over us. However, although we are relatively independent, we will not listen to the hybrid demon suggestions and act freely. However, it's not good for me to make any promises or decisions, so I'll leave it to Mr. Han to explain. He is the central figure of the great expedition. At the same time, he can also be the representative of the Holy City and the Yimo Cube. Olivia imitated the new way of addressing Nicholas and called him Mr. Han. Cough, cough. Han Dong coughed twice and accepted Olivia's shift the blame with a smile. Of course, he had already thought of a topic to start with. He was also very clear that his words here could lead to the fitting and operation of many world gears. Phew. He took a deep breath and began to speak. Han Dong didn't start by talking about the situation or the attitude of the hybrid demons. Instead, he used the London game from a few years ago as a starting point. If my guess is correct, you should have already contacted some of the old kings, right? The invasion that happened in S01. I speculate that some of the seniors here and some of the old kings had worked together to create the game. It was precisely because it was jointly formulated. The invasion appeared to be extra balanced. Even if the city of London was forcibly teleported to a distant plane, Pandora, the invaders arranged by the Black Tower still maintained a balance with the forces in the city of London. The number of kings was also exactly the same. Han Dong emphasized balance in these words. Naturally, there was a meaning in his words. Miss Bay had no intention of hiding it. You are right. The two probing invasions we launched on S01 were to pave the way for the current special cooperation. And the old king who contacted me was a rather powerful sage. Even if there were layers of obstacles in the sealed space of the Black Tower, he still tore open the impassable barrier and transmitted his voice to us. It was also because of this special hybrid demon that we considered a temporary cooperation. The Void. It can actually directly tear open the barrier and forcibly project consciousness to the Black Tower. This is too exaggerated. Han Dong could guess who it was at a glance. In his mind, the supreme existence who looked like the bartender and whose head was as pure as the universe appeared. Miss Bay continued. As this game was completely won by the hybrid demons, it also means that we, the Black Tower, need to give up more priority in future cooperation. I have to say that your performance in Pandora was quite outstanding. In this way, Miss Bay was obviously the main person in charge of the Black Tower of the London game. She must have also paid attention to the progress of the game at that time. Naturally, she noticed the key figure who was the turning point, Han Dong. It was also because of this that she would be recommended by M in advance to accept Han Dong, an alien. However, the old king in the void did not have all the authority to speak in S01. From his mouth, we learned that to establish a true cooperative relationship, it seems that we need the support of more than half of the old king, especially the upper old king, and that existence in the chaos has a crucial vote. Regarding the current attitude of the hybrid demons, do you have any understanding, or can you confirm some affirmative votes, Mr. Han? Due to Mr. M's intervention, we have already pulled in a very important vote, the Black Goat. You should be familiar with it. When Han Dong mentioned this keyword, some of the more experienced holders of the alphabet who were sitting there all had ugly expressions. Boss Francis had a very strange expression. He squeezed his chest muscles and said, "You actually managed to pull that Black Goat's vote. Minter, you really have some tricks up your sleeve. According to our previous invasion of S01, that goat should hate us to the core. It's all thanks to Han Dong acting as the middleman. I didn't expect that Black Goat to agree." Miss Bay's eyes narrowed. Both of you quiet down. It's not time for free discussion yet. Han Dong, you continue. The boss hurriedly covered his mouth with his hand, indicating that he would not say anything else. Han Dong smiled awkwardly. Then I'll continue. Other than the Black Goat's vote, the overall trend of S01 is quite good. I've already spread the news of losing control in several top hybrid demon strongholds, and it has attracted enough attention. Many of the old kings have already begun to discuss this matter and have even begun to prepare for war in advance. Now, many of them are still waiting for me to bring back the details of my visit to BBC, but I'm not sure how many of the old kings will agree to the cooperation. But suddenly, Han Dong's aura changed. Waves of gray mist overflowed from the surface of his body. Han Dong turned his head with a very strange expression. His facial features were slowly degenerating and disappearing. Miss Bay, may I change my identity to participate in the meeting? If a superior existence participates in the current meeting, the answer should be more accurate. Can you allow me to lure an old king and use my body to descend here? Superior? The atmosphere of the meeting immediately changed. Many people's expressions clearly showed that they were against the idea. Boss Francis, on the other hand, was excited. Oh, Han Dong, you actually know this move? Hurry up. Wait, let me measure it. Miss Bay took out an exquisite scale out of nowhere. She reached out and hooked a part of Han Dong's gray aura, condensed it into a weight, and placed it on one side of the scale. Some letters were piled up on the other side. No matter what letters she put on it, or how many letters she put on it, the scale would always be balanced. As the host of the meeting, she had the absolute right to decide. Yes, let him come over. Okay. Suddenly, a gray beam of light descended directly and enveloped Han Dong's body. The divinity descended into the palm of his hand. It evolved into a gray mask that covered his face and blended perfectly with his skin. Han Dong's aura and demeanor completely changed. A small gray vest was worn on his body. His sitting posture also became relaxed. Chapter 1789. Shalno's Gray Kingdom. A wisp of gray mist was emerging from the royal city. Amidst the clouds and mist was the ruler of Shalnos, the apostle of chaos, the source of gray, an existence known as the World Walker. He had just arranged the affairs of his avatars in the royal city and was preparing to wander around the various realms. Unexpectedly, the telepathy of God came again. This time, the telepathy was much clearer. It was not like the last time when there were all kinds of obstacles. Even the gray matter that could easily penetrate everything was unhindered. Moreover, through telepathy, the walker sensed that Han Dong was sitting in an absolutely safe position. It was completely different from the tense and dangerous state last time. Oh, it's only been a few days, and you're here to borrow something again, and you're still in a comfortable and non-dangerous state. Let me guess, what are you doing? Nicholas, this is the first time you've borrowed something in this state. You must be in an important situation that concerns the world, right? If that's the case, so be it. Whoosh! A gray light overflowed from the walker and went straight to the sky. At the top of the tower, in front of the Supreme Will's conference table, when the gray beam of light descended and enveloped Han Dong's entire body, the holders of the several alphabets present, including Director Aller from Wangdu, all moved. On the contrary, Director Charles, Miss Bay, who was closest to him, did not move much. The thick and undetectable gray matter overflowed all over his body, completely covering Han Dong. The situation inside could not be observed at all. Finally, this gray matter spread out in a cyclone shape. When it spread over the entire top area of the tower, the gray fog settled and dissipated. Director Charles's seat, which was derived from the seat, was now empty. A humanoid existence wearing a gray vest, slender trousers, and gray leather shoes leaned on the side of Director Charles's seat in a standing position. As he tidied up his sleeves, his gaze swept across everyone present. It's a little hard to get used to descending from so far away. Nicholas's body can at most withstand lower. If I were to descend all at once, I'm afraid I'd have to leave in a few seconds. If there's a chance in the future, I'll come and meet everyone in person. The scenery here is quite good, and I'd like to be invited directly. Thousand Faces Demon Monarch. Many people present had already recognized it. In order to punish the fallen humans of S-01, when they formed a special team to invade the world, they had encountered this anomaly in various regions. In the eyes of the members of the highest will, this existence, who was mainly gray, was very different from the other old kings. At that time, every time the special team arrived at an area, he could always lurk in the team in a perfect camouflage form, and the camouflage method was different every time. He could infiltrate through various gaps. He could even make use of the most fundamental weakness of human nature to achieve a perfect disguise in the true sense. It was very strange. Even if the disguise was very good, even if there was a chance to assassinate one of the members perfectly, the Walker never made a move. Instead, they would take the risk and take the initiative to communicate with the team members. There were a few times when he even blended into the group and slept with everyone. He even did some rather intimate actions. Now that he thought about it, those who had participated in the world invasion still felt uncomfortable. Miss Bay's expression also changed slightly. Therefore, the Walker had also received a nickname in the Black Tower, Thousand Faces Demon Monarch. Even though he had never launched any direct attacks, he was still listed as one of the most dangerous hybrid demons. It seems that you're having some kind of important meeting. There are also many humans from our world at the scene. Wait a moment. Let me read Nicholas's memories and see how far you have progressed. He placed his finger on his temple. The faceless face immediately began to shake at a high frequency. Oh, are you already talking about the vote? At this moment, Miss Bay added, "That's right. I wonder what your current attitude is. It's not very good at the moment. I happened to go to the boss's place some time ago. He completely disdained your side. However, I just read Nicholas's experience in some BC. If I bring this information back, there might be a turn for the better. But it's only a maybe. As for me, I'm also just a neutral attitude. Of course, on account of how you all take care of my Nicholas, if I'm the only one who's sure of my vote, I'll vote for you." "Boss, are you talking about that existence in the chaos? We've already made a huge concession. We're willing to provide a large amount of materials, technology, and priority. Isn't that enough?" The gray face that changed 1,000 times turned to Miss Bay and said with a disdainful expression, "If you really want to cooperate, why don't you take out something practical? Boss won't be interested in these basic things. Tell me, what do you want?" "Complete synchronization of the information on the runaway, including the relevant information and internal situation of the BC runaway. Compared to the basic materials you provide, Boss will be more interested in these runaway existences that exceed the norm. After all, the Chaos Royal Court is relatively empty, and it's not bad to raise a few pets. The Abyss Party also needs to be injected with some fresh elements." Miss Bay's expression changed. The runaway, especially the most dangerous runaway, is also the support of our Black Tower's basic technology. This kind of information touches the root of our Black Tower. We can synchronize the real-time situation of the BC with you. However, we can't give you information on the cutting-edge runaway. The gray body spread out his hands. "If you can't do it, I'll be very sorry. If Boss doesn't agree, then you'll have to solve it yourself. Of course, if you change your decision, you can send a special envoy at any time. It's best if one of you goes to the center of chaos to negotiate with Boss face-to-face. Of course, you can also entrust Nicholas to bring us a letter." The gray body glanced at the mimicry watch on his sleeve and reached out to pat his shoulder. "That's about it. I still have a lot of things to do. Nicholas is my best disciple. You have to treat him a little better." Buzz. The gray color dissipated. Han Dong, who had taken off his mask, almost staggered and fell to the ground. It seemed that the descent of the Walker's consciousness had put a great burden on his body. Miss Bay's fingers moved slightly. A sense of balance spread throughout his body. As he stood firmly, his consciousness also stabilized. How did the discussion go? Senior Walker should belong to the type of old king who is very easy to talk to. "Well, Han Dong, take a seat first. We have understood the general situation. Now, we will enter the discussion stage of the meeting. The four of you who are not members of the highest will need to leave." Before Han Dong could react, Zhang Han's expression changed. He was already sealed in the pure white space. This place was equipped with all kinds of entertainment equipment, so it was not boring at all. About an hour passed. When the seal was lifted, the monthly meeting had already ended. A letter sealed with B was handed to Han Dong. Miss Bay said with a serious face, "Han Dong, I need you to hand this letter to the Thousand Faces Demon Monarch. Do you need me to do anything else? You just need to hand it to him personally. This is an important decision made at this meeting. You must ensure that the letter is delivered." Got it. In addition, your only candidate has been approved. Your identity has also been updated at the same time in the Black Tower. The relevant permissions and subsequent developments will be informed by M. Your performance in this meeting was very good. Thank you, Senior. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.